860 Unexpected. 7. The first thing Xianyi noticed when he walked into the tent was Feng Wu's bloody wrist. What happened? Xianyi cried out. Boss Jun would go berserk if he saw this. Xianyi glared at Feng Sun. What kind of brother are you? Your sister is still bleeding and you're looking after someone else. Like Jun Linyuan, Feng Sun and Xianyi only cared about those they deemed as one of their own. Shi Xian listened in embarrassment, but didn't dare to utter a sound. Feng Sun snapped, What? Xiao Wu's wound hasn't been treated yet. Oh God, I'm such an idiot. Feng Sun forgot all about Gongsun Qing and went to look after Feng Wu. Shi Xian was speechless. 4 hours had passed when Feng Wu woke up again. The sun was setting and the light was fading outside. She looked up to see the concerned expression on Feng Sun's face and his frighteningly bright eyes. What time is it now? Feng Wu asked weakly. It's a little after 5. The sun's almost down. How's Gongsun Qing doing? Feng Sun rolled his eyes at Feng Wu. I'd worry more about myself if I were you. Who the hell is that Gongsun Qing? She's not worthy of your blood. There's greater merit in saving a life than building a great temple. Feng Wu smiled. As a matter of fact, she would never have used her own blood under normal circumstances, but what was happening was anything but normal. Luckily, blood was a renewable resource. I don't care about a stupid temple. You're the world to me. Remember this, nothing is more important than your own life. A smile appeared on Feng Wu's pale face. It feels good to have a big brother. This was the first time that Feng Wu had addressed Feng Sun as her brother. Feng Sun almost blushed. Scratching his head, he said, Well, I'm going to Boss Jun now. I'll come back with something nice for you. Something nice for her? An idea struck Feng Wu. Could Jun Linyuan? In Jun Linyuan's cabin. Boss Jun, you have no idea what Xiao Wu has gone through, Feng Sun said with a long face. She's such a brave girl. She cut her wrist open for another person. The blood gushed out like a fountain. Gosh, I was so frightened. Feng Sun didn't look frightened, but the crown prince blanched a little. It was just that Feng Sun didn't notice. The crown prince had gone stiff. He felt a chill run down his spine as he stared at Feng Sun. Feng Sun said, I kept wondering, was it worth it for her to hurt herself to save that Gongsun Qing? The crown prince said, No. I thought the same. Feng Sun nodded. My sister is so kind and naive. She's stupid. Jun Linyuan's eyes flickered. Feng Sun cleared his throat. Well, the girl has lost a lot of blood and she's all dizzy. Boss Jun, do you have any tonics or potions on you that can help her? Feng Sun smiled obsequiously and put an open palm under Jun Linyuan's nose. Jun Linyuan glanced at him, then rose to his feet and walked out with an impassive face. Feng Sun followed him out immediately. Jun Linyuan headed directly for Feng Wu's tent. On their way there, many rose to their feet to show their reverent respect for their crown prince. Have you heard? Feng Wu saved Gongsun Qing's life. 861 Unexpected. 8. And I also heard that Feng Wu cut her wrist open to save Gongsun Qing. Her blood was what stopped Gongsun Qing from dying. Feng Wu did that. I heard it from Shi Xian herself. Shi Xian is Gongsun Qing's best friend and she was there the whole time. She saw it with her own eyes. It has to be true. So, Feng Wu is actually a kind person. Those on Mu Yaoyao's side couldn't take it anymore and interjected, No, she's not. Even if what you said is true, she only did it to win popularity. So, you would cut your own wrist to save other people with your own blood to win popularity? That's because Feng Wu is a physician. She was only doing what she's supposed to do. That's moral coercion. Since when is it mandatory for all physicians to offer their blood? Then, Shi Xian stared at Yao Ying, who was standing next to Mu Yaoyao. Answer me this, could you do the same if you were her? Yaoing stammered, I. Sure, Xian smirked. Feng Wu didn't even treat her own wound when she told young Lord Feng to save Sister Qing. Answer me. Could you do the same if you were her? I. Sure, Xian went on, I've heard a lot about Feng Wu in the past few days. Everyone's been telling me how impossible she is and how infatuated she is with guys. They made her sound like an idiot and a good-for-nothing. But after observing her myself, why do I get the feeling that she's a worthier friend than a lot of other people? Many pondered Shi Xian's words. Naturally, Jun Linyuan heard the conversation as well. Feng Sun was pleased. They've finally realized how amazing my sister is. I'd say what happened was a blessing in disguise. Xiao Wu turned out to be the winner. You moron. To Jun Linyuan, no fame was remotely as important as Feng Wu's safety. Back in the tent. Feng Wu looked up to find the stunning face of Jun Linyuan, but it didn't bring Feng Wu any joy. Her face only darkened. The atmosphere was rather awkward. Before Feng Sun could smile, Feng Wu rose to her feet and headed for the door. She blurted out when she walked past the crown prince, "Come outside." Her tone was so commanding. Feng Sun jumped. How bold! Had the girl forgotten what happened to Gongsun Qing? Gongsun Qing had assumed too much and thought too highly of herself. Look what happened to her. Feng Wu, on the other hand, had just given the crown prince an order. Even His Majesty wouldn't order Boss Jun around. However, Feng Sun was still venting his sarcasm in his head when his boss Jun followed Feng Sun out. Feng Sun was rendered speechless. He looked at Xian Yi in amazement. Xian Yi shrugged. It was so obvious. And this Feng Sun called himself the smartest man in the imperial capital? Next to a high pile of snow. Feng Wu took a deep breath and looked up at Jun Linyuan, who was at least 20 centimeters taller than her. Feng Wu barely reached the crown prince's shoulder. Feng Wu convinced herself that she was still young. She was sure that she could grow up to Jun Linyuan's ear in a few years. But that wasn't the point. Face dark, Feng Wu said in a solemn tone, Jun Linyuan, with everything that has happened, are you still going to deny you're at fault? Jun Linyuan ignored her. He picked up her right hand. 862 Feng Wu is brilliant. 1. Her thin wrist was wrapped in thick layers of gauze. It looked hideous. The look on Jun Linyuan's face was very dangerous. Jun Linyuan. Let go of me. I'm talking to you. Feng Wu struggled. She took a deep breath. I know you're a distinguished figure and that you're expected to look down upon everyone else, but that doesn't give you the right to ignore the lives of others. Fine, you're all-powerful, but that doesn't mean that the weak deserve to die. Gongsun Qing only spilled a drop of tea on you and you wanted to kill her over such a petty thing. Jun Linyuan, I've never met anyone as cold-blooded as you. After everything Jun Linyuan had put her through over the past few days, Feng Wu had had enough. She blurted everything out without hesitation. Jun Linyuan didn't say anything in response. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and stared at Feng Wu's wounded wrist the whole time. At his side, Feng Wu felt overwhelmed by his intimidating aura. It was hard to breathe. Feng Wu wanted to go on, but Jun Linyuan had picked up her hand and began to examine it. You. Was he even listening? Does it hurt? Before she knew it, Jun Linyuan had removed the gauze and was staring at her mangled wrist. No, not really. This unexpected show of affection gave Feng Wu the creeps. But that didn't last. The next second, Jun Linyuan had wrapped his fingers around Feng Wu's wrist. Do you want to die that badly? Feng Wu stammered, I don't. It's just. This is the last time. Jun Linyuan said in a husky voice, and he squeezed out each word through gritted teeth. I'll kill every single person you save this way. That look in his eyes. It was so malicious. He meant it. There was a gust of wind and the hair on Feng Wu's back stood up. Jun Linyuan then released her wrist. Feng Wu almost lost her balance, and had to lean back on the pile of snow as she gasped for air. Jun Linyuan stared at her for another moment with a gaze as sharp as an eagle's. Only then did he turn around and leave. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She only realized a moment later that she had been the one to summon the guy out here. She was supposed to tell him off. How did it turn into a lecture for herself? She was so mad. However, Feng Wu's stomach lurched a little when she recalled the look in Jun Linyuan's eyes. She was seldom afraid of someone, but Jun Linyuan did frighten her. Because the guy was unpredictable, had no respect for life, and was capable of doing anything. Xiao Wu, sob, Xiao Wu. A voice rang out a short distance away. Feng Wu's eyes lit up. It was Chaoga. That was her voice. Feng Wu turned around to see Chaoga running toward her. Her face was smeared with dust. Xiao Wu, Chaoga cried out in excitement, but she was limping. Before she could reach Feng Wu, she lost her balance and rolled down the slope. Exasperated, Feng Wu ran over to Chaoga and helped her to her feet. Xiao Wu, sob, Chaoga was thrilled as she hugged Feng Wu. Where have you been? I was looking for you everywhere. Feng Wu rubbed her head. I've been looking for you, too. Why weren't you with them? Them? Mu Yao Yao, Gong Sun Qing, and the others. Humph, I don't like any of them. I wanted to find you on my own. Ouch, Chaoga cried out in pain all of a sudden. 863 Feng Wu is brilliant. 2. Feng Wu frowned. Show me. Chaoga chuckled. Don't worry. I'm fine. A magical beast just bit me in the leg, and it hurts a little, that's all. What magical beast? A snowy white snake. It was really pretty and I wanted to catch it. But it didn't go as expected, Chaoga said with a long face. You silly girl, Feng Wu jabbed Chaoga's forehead with a finger and went on examining her. She froze all of a sudden. The look on her face turned grave. Chaoga was bewildered. Xiao Wu, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? What happened to your face? And your hand? Chaoga reached out to hold Feng Wu's hand, but Feng Wu remained serious. Xiao Wu, what's wrong? Are you very ill? Chaoga was flustered. Feng Wu took a deep breath. Chaoga, I need to tell you something. Of course. I'll help you no matter what, come hell or high water. Xiao Wu, please don't be afraid. Chaoga held Feng Wu's hand and nodded solemnly. Feng Wu would be lying if she said she wasn't moved. Feng Wu wanted to tell Chaoga that the snake was extremely poisonous and that she didn't have any antidote on her, not even adequate raw ingredients to make one. But she couldn't bring herself to tell Chaoga. Let's get you back first. Feng Wu helped Chaoga to her feet. Gosh, this leg is killing me. Chaoga drew in her breath and smacked her own thigh. Don't! Feng Wu cried out. The toxin was in a dormant state, but her smack could trigger the flow of her blood and quicken the spread of the toxin. I'll carry you. Feng Wu immediately threw Chaoga on her back and headed for the tent. Xiao Wu, put me down. Put me down now. You're dying, you shouldn't be doing this. I should be the one carrying you. Chaoga squirmed on Feng Wu's back and yelled. Feng Sun rushed out at the noise. What's going on? What is it? What do you mean Xiao Wu's dying? Feng Sun freaked out. After the blood loss, Feng Wu was in fact too weak to carry Chaoga. She put her friend on Feng Sun's back instead. Take her back into the tent. Feng Sun didn't want to, but he obeyed after seeing his sister's pale face. After steadying Chaoga on his back, he told Feng Wu, "It's so cold out here. Let's go back in." All the other candidates were sitting out in the open as a cold, snowy wind blasted through the valley. Someone had tried to start a fire, but with the howling wind and the heavy snow, the fire was smothered almost as soon as the wood lit up. Their faces had turned blue and everyone was shivering. Looking at their pale faces and purple lips, Feng Wu shook her head in resignation. These people had zero ability to survive in the cold. As she walked past the crowd, she said coldly, "Dig a hole in the snow where it's less windy. It'll be warmer inside." She had told them what to do, it was up to them to make the choice. That was as much help as Feng Wu could offer. Feng Wu didn't try to keep her voice down, so a lot of candidates heard her. They whispered among themselves after Feng Wu left. What did Feng Wu say? 864 Feng Wu is brilliant. 3. She said we should dig a hole in the snow and sleep in it. It'll be warmer that way. Is she trying to kill us? The snow is freezing, and a hole underground will be the same. And she's telling us to sleep in it? We won't live to see another sunrise if we do that. A voice cut them off at that moment. Why do I get the feeling that Feng Wu's instruction makes sense? It was Shi Xian. Ever since Feng Wu saved Gongsun Qing with her own blood despite how the latter had mistreated her, Shi Xian had changed her opinion of Feng Wu. Many smirked at this. Is that so? Miss Shi, please enlighten us. Shi Xian said, I can't, but I'm willing to try. We'll freeze to death all the same if we just sit here. Shi Xian was the first to dig. Those around her tried to stop her, but she persisted. She was willing to trust Feng Wu, although she also found it impossible that a snow pit could be warmer. Soon, she made a hole big enough for one person. Shi Xian was the first to enter. Wait! Shi Xian's eyes lit up. She had thought that Feng Wu was making fun of them, but as it turned out, Feng Wu was right. It was so much warmer inside. Shi Xian wasn't on her own. After Gongsun Qing was injured, she became the leader of Gongsun Qing's team. She walked out and gave the order to her team of 15. Let's start digging. From 50 m to the east and 30 m to the west under this big rock. We're making a very big snow pit. But, the others hesitated. Shi Xian said decisively, I know you all have doubts, but you'll see after you do this. Facts spoke louder than words. With Gongsun Qing gone, the team members followed Shi Xian's instruction. They knelt and began to dig with their weapons. Cold and starved, they began to show signs of hypothermia and grew weaker. Luckily, with their combined efforts, the hole was finished in time. After they climbed in, there was no need for Shi Xian to explain, for everyone beamed at one another. Oh God! It's so warm here. It completely blocks the wind from getting in. I didn't think this would work. Feng Wu was right. Quite a few candidates were still outside and waiting to laugh at the team. However, they were baffled when they saw how cheerful they were. What was going on? Some of them found excuses to enter the little cave. They felt the difference in temperature as soon as they walked in. The looks on their faces changed. That actually worked. A teenager named Fan Yuan was the first to take action. He had always been kind of an outsider, and he was now the first to take action. Without another word, he dashed off and began to dig under that big rock. More people joined in. Everyone was digging like rats, and snow scattered everywhere. 865 Feng Wu is brilliant. 4. Mu Yaoyao and Xian Yuan Yi were dumbfounded. Especially Mu Yaoyao. She grabbed a girl by the arm when the latter ran past her. What's going on there? What are you people doing? Oh my, Princess Mu, please let go of me. I need to hurry up before all the good spots under that rock are taken. That's the least windy place. The girl, who had always respected Mu Yaoyao, shoved the latter to one side and ran off. Mu Yaoyao stumbled and almost fell to the ground. Her face darkened. Could it be that Feng Wu's method actually worked? When Mu Yaoyao finally entered one of the holes, she had to admit that Feng Wu was right. It really was warmer inside than outside. With the holes, they no longer had to sit in the open and shiver in the freezing wind. What frustrated Mu Yaoyao more was the conversation around her. Feng Wu knows so much. I never knew that. That's right. She's really smart. Although, she did get full marks in the written exam. We should have known that. We've said so many bad things about her, but she's still willing to share this piece of information with us. She's not a bad person. So true. Remember how Gongsun Qing targeted her before? But she cut her wrist open to save her. That's proof enough of her character. That doesn't make sense. If Feng Wu is so kind and warm-hearted, why are there so many rumors about her? I bet she offended the wrong people. She's so pretty. It's only normal that some people would be jealous of her. That's the price of being so brilliant. I don't care what other people think, but from now on, I'm going to form my own opinion. Me, too. Mu Yaoyao was furious. These people are singing her praises over such a petty favor. Do they even have principles? Mu Yaoyao whined. A petty favor? Those in Xianyuan Yi's team eyed Mu Yaoyao. To Feng Wu, it was just a kind reminder, but it was a life-saving tip for everyone else. Many had thought highly of Mu Yaoyao before. The girl came with many flashy tags. As the daughter of Lord Mu and a pupil of Firmament Palace, she had Zhua Qingluan the genius girl as her senior sister and the vice principal of Imperial College as her grandfather. Every candidate had wanted to be part of her circle. However, they had a different opinion of her now. Because of her privileged background, Mu Yaoyao had never thought of any of these people as her equal. She was very angry now, not just because of the change in their views about Feng Wu. What was more, because Shi Xian was the first to react, her team had taken the best spot, whereas Mu Yaoyao and Xianyuan Yi's teams had to share what was left. Feng Wu had no idea that her little reminder would change these people's minds so drastically. Although, she probably wouldn't care even if she did know. 3 beds lay side by side in the tent. And 3 patients were on one each. They were Yu Minji, Gongsun Qing, and Duan Chaoga. A fire was burning in the brazier. All 3 patients had fallen into a lethargic sleep. Feng Sun was bemused. Why did Duan Chaoga fall asleep so quickly? Feng Wu said gravely, she's not sleeping. 866 Feng Wu is brilliant. 5. What's she doing, then? She's unconscious. What? Feng Sun looked shocked. She passed out? That girl is stronger than a calf. How could she pass out? She was bitten by a venomous snake. Once the blade of her dagger was red with heat from the fire, Feng Wu picked the dagger up and pulled up one of Duan Chaoga's legs. Seeing that Feng Sun was still standing there, Feng Wu shook her head. Brother, go fetch me some rocks. Feng Sun was bewildered. How big do you need them? Feng Wu said, the size of baby fists, preferably. What do you need them for? You'll see. Please hurry. Feng Wu cut Feng Sun off before he could ask another question. Get me those rocks and you'll know what they're for. That was all the explanation she was going to give. Feng Sun promptly left the tent. Feng Wu shook her head with a wry smile. She was about to cut one of Chaoga's trouser legs open, and a guy shouldn't be in the room. There would be rumors if they weren't careful. Feng Wu swept her palm across Chaoga's right calf after Feng Sun left the tent. The cloth turned to ash at her touch. And it revealed the wound on Chaoga's calf. The wound had swollen to the size of a peach and looked as if it was ready to burst at any moment. The skin around the wound had turned black and gave off a strange energy as well as a horrible smell. Moreover, a black line had emerged on Chaoga's skin and was moving up her calf. Feng Wu examined it and saw that it had reached as far as Chaoga's thigh. It wouldn't be long before it reached her spine. When that happened, Chaoga would spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. And she would die when it reached her heart. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. It pained her just to think about it. She tried to find a spot to cut into the wound with the red-hot blade, but shook her head after a moment of hesitation. She couldn't find one. It was easy to release the puss, but not as easy to clear all the toxins from Chaoga's system. Feng Wu had a 90% chance of saving Chaoga if they were outside this place and had full access to all the medicine she needed. However, stranded in this abominable place, that chance had fallen to 50%. If anything unexpected happened during the procedure, Chaoga would die. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu put the dagger down. If only I had some cleansing bee pills on me, Feng Wu rubbed her forehead. Feng Wu had designed the cleansing bee pill herself, and she knew that it would be the perfect antidote for the red-eyed snake. But where was she supposed to find cleansing bee pills now? She didn't have any on her. You need cleansing bee pills? A voice rang out behind Feng Wu. She turned around to find Xian Yi at the door. Feng Wu asked, "Why are you here?" Xian Yi said, "To bring you the rocks." "Can you tell me what they're for, now?" "Throw them in the brazier." "That's it? How elaborate did you expect it to be?" Feng Wu found Xian Yi's question amusing. Xian Yi shrugged, then tossed a dozen or so rocks of roughly the same small size into the fire. He then turned in Feng Wu's direction. "You need cleansing bee pills? Do you have any?" Feng Wu frowned. "Actually, I do. But I've only got one bottle." Feng Wu was elated. "Give it to me, then." "Why should I?" Crossing his arms, Xian Yi stared at Feng Wu with a half-smile on his face. Feng Wu frowned. "Those aren't exactly expensive pills. You can get a bottle for a coin anywhere outside. But you can't do that here, can you? It's a scarce resource." Xian Yi grinned at Feng Wu. Feng Wu's frown grew bigger. 867 Feng Wu is brilliant. 6. Why did she get the feeling that Xian Yi was behaving differently today? And did he seem more talkative than usual? Feng Wu said, "I'll pay you 100-fold." Xian Yi chuckled. "Little Feng Wu, do you think I'm in need of small change like that?" Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu looked into his eyes. "Chaoga is mortally wounded and she needs those cleansing bee pills, which you don't really need at the moment. Please let me use them. I'll owe you a big favor." Xian Yi only smiled, but wouldn't reply. Feng Wu darted a look at the tent entrance. Xian Yi said casually, "Feng Sun has gone to His Royal Highness and won't be back for a while. So, you came prepared." Putting the dagger away, Feng Wu stared at Xian Yi. "We'll talk outside." Holding his sword between his crossed arms, Xian Yi followed Feng Wu out. Once they walked behind an ice wall, Feng Wu narrowed her eyes in an intimidating manner. "Xian II, speak your mind." She stared at him. Feng Wu believed that she knew Xian Yi well enough to know that he wouldn't turn away from the wounded. It was obvious that he had his own reasons. "It's nothing, really. I can tell there's something behind it." "Just say it." "I won't put it that way. You sent Feng Sun off on purpose before coming to me and you're using cleansing bee pills as bait. If that's not deliberate, I don't know what is." "Well," Xian Yi rubbed his nose. "You've been acting strangely these days. What's going on?" Feng Wu narrowed her eyes and looked Xian Yi up and down. "No, I haven't." Xian Yi didn't sound so sure. "You used to be as prim as an old man. What happened? You're all nosy and meddling." Xian Yi looked embarrassed. He then stared at Feng Wu. "Do you want those cleansing bee pills or not?" Feng Wu said, "Tell me what's on your mind." Xian Yi rubbed his nose again. Feng Wu's intense gaze made him fidget a little. "Actually, I was going to save those cleansing bee pills for myself." Feng Wu nodded. "All right. But if you really want them, we'll leave it up to God's will." "What do you mean by God's will?" "Easy. Let's make a bet." "What bet?" "The simplest one. How about rock, paper, scissors? I'll give you those pills if you win. But if you lose, I can still give you those pills, but on one condition." Feng Wu smiled a little. There we go. Xianyi lowered his head and whispered something in Feng Wu's ear. Feng Wu's face darkened immediately. What's that supposed to mean? She flared up. Xianyi shrugged. You heard me. It's up to you whether to take the offer or not. In Xianyi's hand was that bottle of cleansing bee pills, which cost next to nothing in the outside world, but was invaluable here. Feng Wu took a deep breath. What will you get out of this? Nothing. Feng Wu was torn inside, for that offer was so. She felt like freaking out just thinking about it. You can always say no. Xianyi turned to leave. Wait. Feng Wu called after Xianyi. The teenager smiled a little. Fine. All right. Feng Wu ground her teeth. Her top priority now was Chaoga. If that wound was left untreated and something else unexpected happened, Feng Wu couldn't take that risk. 868 Feng Wu is brilliant. 7. Xianyi secretly let out a breath of relief when he heard Feng Wu's reply. He was going so far just to help Boss Jun. Are you sure about playing rock, paper, scissors? Feng Wu found the idea preposterous. That's right. We'll leave it to fate. Xian II, you really have nothing better to do, don't you? We don't have much to do around here anyway, do we? Feng Wu asked, so, best of 3 wins? Xianyi said, no, let's get it over with in one go. Get what over with? Hey, what secret are the two of you keeping from me? Feng Wu and Xianyi jumped at the sudden voice. Feng Sun. The teenager eyed the two of them suspiciously. Since when are you so close? Feng Wu snapped, Xian II here is so bored that he wants to play rock, paper, scissors. You have time to do that? Feng Sun rolled his eyes. With everything that was going on in the campsite, all the candidates were on edge, not to mention that people were cold and starving. And these two were playing rock, paper, scissors here? Good, you can be our judge. Xianyi then turned to Feng Wu. Let's stand back to back and raise our right hands. We'll move at the same time. Sounds fair. Feng Wu nodded. All right. The guy had the cleansing bee pills and he was the one to call the shots. 3, 2, 1. They showed their hands at the same time. Without seeing each other's faces, it was really all down to luck. Little Feng Wu, you're so lousy. He's scissors and you're paper. You lost. Feng Sun cried out. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Xianyi stuffed the bottle of pills into Feng Wu's hand, then whispered in her ear, be sure to come tonight. He left after that. Feng Wu had never looked so conflicted. Feng Sun was bewildered. What did he just tell you? Feng Wu said, nothing. And what's with that look on your face? It's the losing face. Feng Sun said, all right. I can't believe that Xian II. He tricked my sister. He couldn't lose. Feng Wu asked, how so? Don't you know? Know what? Feng Sun sighed. Xianyi has this ability, he can read other people's minds when he makes contact with them. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. That explained everything. No wonder he wanted to stand with their backs against each other. That's Xianyi. He was going to give her those pills no matter what. Why did he go through that extra step? Why did you tell me? Feng Wu glared at Feng Sun. Feng Sun grinned. You wouldn't have taken the bet if I told you, would you? Plus, you're always so sure of yourself, it feels nice to see you get tricked for a change. You! Speaking of which, what did you bet on? Cleansing bee pills. They're for Chaoga. Rubbing his chin, Feng Sun eyed Feng Wu suspiciously. Why do I feel that there's more to it? Are you two planning something behind my back? I'm not telling you. Feng Wu turned to leave in frustration. Feng Sun followed her. Hey, little Feng Wu, I'm your brother. Feng Wu glared at him. Is that why you just helped that guy to trick me? Feng Sun rubbed his nose. With cleansing bee pills, Feng Wu could operate on Chaoga. Take those rocks out of the fire, wrap them in fish skin, and bring them to me, Feng Wu instructed Feng Sun, before she cut Chaoga's skin open. 869 Feng Wu is brilliant. 8. Why do we need to wrap the rocks in fish skin? Feng Sun was confused. However, when Feng Wu began to put the wrapped rocks around Chaoga, Feng Sun saw the light. Why, Chaoga seems to be warming up. Feng Wu nodded. That's right. Heated stones don't cool down that easily and can stay warm for much longer once wrapped in this special fish skin. They'll be able to keep her warm throughout the night. Someone cried out a few steps away. Feng Wu turned around and saw that it was that girl who had been taking care of Gongsun Qing. She remembered she was called Shi Xian. Shi Xian looked excited. Miss Feng, can I use that method as well? Feng Wu asked, what method? Shi Xian said in excitement, to warm up with heated stones. Feng Wu looked very innocent. Of course. Isn't it common sense? Common sense? Shi Xian and Feng Sun exchanged looks. They had never heard about such common sense. Feng Sun was thrilled. The other people won't freeze to death. Little Feng Wu, you're brilliant. Feng Sun ran out of the tent after that. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. What did she do? Why was she so brilliant? After treating Chaoga, Feng Wu checked the sky outside and saw that it was about time. She was conflicted. Should she keep her promise with Xian Yi? If she didn't go, she could almost see Xian Yi sneering at her. But if she did go, it would be so humiliating. But one had to always honor a bet, no matter how hard it would be. She had her principles. All right. Feng Wu took a deep breath. So be it. It wasn't like she was going to do it again. Taking off the white apron which she had worn for the operation, she tossed it aside and marched out of the tent. All the candidates were sleeping in their holes and the campsite was empty. Feng Wu's tent was on the north side, while Jun Linyuan's cabin was on the south side. There was some distance between the two. Holding her breath, Feng Wu walked all the way from her tent to the cabin. The entire time, she couldn't see any light in the windows of the cabin. It was deep into the night and it was all hushed. When Feng Wu reached the door to the cabin, the courage she had summoned up began to fade. Xian II was the worst. He had done this on purpose and was waiting to laugh at her. His request was that she had to kiss Jun Linyuan and tell the guy, I'm in love with you. It was. Feng Wu walked around the cabin in circles and her courage kept fading. Should she talk to Xian II and change the terms? No. Xian II popped up behind her when she wasn't paying attention. Gosh! Feng Wu turned around to find Xian Yi behind her, which made her jump. She glared at him. You scared the crap out of me. We're not changing it. Xian II grinned. Although, you can always leave if you're willing to admit that you're a person that won't honor your word. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. Xian II. You just can't wait to laugh at me, can you? Holding his sword between his crossed arms, Xian Yi raised an eyebrow. Feng Wu challenged him. You think I can't do it? Can you? Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She really wanted to back out. However, she was so irritated by the taunting look in Xian Yi's eyes. It's just a bet and I'm going to keep my word. Feng Wu snorted and marched toward the cabin. Looking at Feng Wu from behind, Xian Yi narrowed his eyes. 870 Kiss. 1. Did Xian Yi have no feelings for Feng Wu at all? That wasn't the case. However, he had to find out how little Feng Wu felt about Jun Linyuan first. Xian Yi believed that she would never agree to such preposterous terms if she didn't have any feelings for Jun Linyuan at all, hence the seemingly pointless bet. He was testing Feng Wu. Maybe the girl hadn't realized how much she actually cared about Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu reached the door to the cabin, and for some reason, she flinched. She looked over her shoulder at Xian Yi. A few steps away, Xian II stood in the snowfield, holding his sword between his crossed arms. He gave her a knowing look and a half-smile. That irritated Feng Wu. So be it. She wouldn't be intimidated. She would get it over with and run away before Jun Linyuan found out. Feng Wu pressed her ear to the door and listened carefully. The breathing sounded long and even. His Royal Highness was really asleep. But that didn't fully convince Feng Wu. Taking out a tube filled with sleeping incense powder, she began to blow it into the cabin. Wu thought the powder was a special concoction of Feng Wu's, and was supposed to be highly effective. It should take effect in less than 5 minutes. Because Jun Linyuan was the person in question here, Feng Wu waited for a few more minutes. She only pushed the door open 15 minutes later. The cabin had been crudely built and a straw rope had been used to lock the door, which Feng Wu thought would be easy to untie. However, she soon realized that the knot was impossible to untie. She moved to the window instead. Luckily, the window wasn't locked. Feng Wu carefully pried the window open and jumped in as quiet as a cat. She did everything in one smooth motion without any pause in between. The window was left open, for Feng Wu knew she would be leaving soon. Silver moonlight poured into the room like running water and shone on Jun Linyuan's face. The crown prince was lying there with his hands crossed on his abdomen. The clear and bright moonlight gave his deep-set, exquisite features extra charisma, bringing out his natural charm. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu walked gingerly to the bed and sat down on the edge. Feng Wu waved a finger in front of his face. Jun Linyuan. Jun Linyuan. She had to make sure he was really asleep. He gave no reply. Feng Wu was elated. However, she still wasn't fully convinced. Could a formidable man like Jun Linyuan be drugged that easily? She drew a dagger out of her sleeve for another test. The blade glinted coldly in the moonlight. She then swept the blade down at Jun Linyuan's forehead. Jun Linyuan's eyes remained closed and he didn't move a muscle. He would have dodged if he was pretending to be asleep. However, he didn't even flinch when the tip of the blade was 1 centimeter away from him. That was to say, Jun Linyuan was really drugged. Oh God, this was a 1 in a million chance. Putting the dagger away, Feng Wu put a hand on either side of Jun Linyuan's head and lowered her head. Staring at Jun Linyuan's face, she quickly said the words that Xian Yi had told her to say. Although, there was a little twist. Feng Wu said it in French, which was unknown in this world. Je t'aime. Feng Wu couldn't even bring herself to look at Jun Linyuan's face after saying those words, fearing that the guy might wake up. It would be so embarrassing. She then lowered her head to kiss him. But she was too nervous and lost her balance. The next second, she fell on top of Jun Linyuan. 871 A kiss. 2. She fell on top of him and their lips touched. Feng Wu felt like screaming. She was supposed to kiss him without letting him know, not smash into him to wake him up. Feng Wu was still feeling frustrated when she sensed an intense gaze. She raised her head and looked into a pair of bright eyes. Feng Wu. Their eyes met. Blood rushed into Feng Wu's head and she felt as if she had just been struck by lightning. Her head went completely blank. For a moment, Feng Wu didn't know where she was or what she was doing. Their lips had touched and she had looked into his eyes. Ah! Feng Wu finally came back to herself. Shoving Jun Linyuan away, she jumped out of the window and disappeared into the night. She was soon nowhere to be seen. Jun Linyuan didn't know what to say. In the dark, he touched his thin lips and smiled. Little Feng Wu, I finally know what you want. Feng Wu ran all the way back to her tent and closed the door loudly behind her as she gasped for breath. She couldn't get the image out of her head. It was so embarrassing. How could she wake Jun Linyuan up? That ruined all her plans. Would he begin to assume things? Of course he would. She had drugged him in the middle of the night before climbing into his room and kissing him. Feng Wu smacked her own head in frustration. Feng Wu, you're the dumbest person in the world. Feng Wu smacked herself again. Why are you doing that to yourself? Are you crazy or something? Yu Minji had woken up and was grinning at Feng Wu. His amorous eyes twinkled. He noticed that Feng Wu was blushing, and the look on her face reminded him of a girl in love. She almost looked secretly joyful. Yu Minji narrowed his eyes. Did you go see Jun Linyuan? The scared son was displeased. No. Feng Wu denied outright. Really? Yu Minji wasn't convinced. Yes. Really? Feng Wu threw a dirty look at him and said in an irritated voice. She was angry from her embarrassment. Yu Minji looked aggrieved as he mumbled, "Fine, you didn't. There's no need to shout at me." Feng Wu said, "Sorry about that." Her apology cheered Yu Minji up right away and he beamed at her. "Little Feng Wu, come here." "What?" Despite her impatience, Feng Wu still went up to him. Taking Feng Wu's hand, Yu Minji looked up at her. "You made my life miserable back in Frozen Forest. I told you already, I'm not her. Shall I invite Feng Sun and the other guys over to help me with that?" "Yu Minji, how dare you!" Feng Wu smacked the guy on the head. Ouch! Yu Minji puffed out his cheeks and cried out in pain. He looked at Feng Wu with teary eyes. "Are you trying to kill your future husband?" Feng Wu stomped on his feet. "Say that again and you're dead." "Fine, fine. I won't," Yu Minji pouted. Feng Wu had tricked him over and over again in Frozen Forest. He had been set up and poisoned, not to mention that she had stolen the treasure from him. But now, she was threatening him. Any other woman would have been killed by now. 872 A Kiss. 3. But why did he seem to enjoy it when little Feng Wu yelled at him? Yu Minji rubbed his chin. "Why are you grinning?" Feng Wu was bewildered and felt Yu Minji's forehead for his temperature. The guy was rubbing his chin and grinning. Was he delirious? He didn't have a temperature. Before Feng Wu knew it, a big hand was on top of hers and Yu Minji was looking up at her with his brooding eyes. The air felt warm all of a sudden. Thump. Feng Wu stomped on Yu Minji's foot. Ouch! That hurt. Yu Minji glared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu said grumpily, "Have you recovered?" "I think so." "Completely?" "I don't think so." "Then lie down already." "All right." After forcing Yu Minji to go to bed, Feng Wu sat down against the wall and closed her eyes. The night ended and the eastern sky began to brighten up. The candidates started to wake up one after another. Meanwhile, in Imperial College, many were worried sick. For they had lost contact with the candidates inside. Not only wasn't there a video feed on the screen, even the ranking screen had gone dark. Only 1/10 of all candidates had passed the written exam, and everyone who was still taking part in the physical tryout was from privileged backgrounds. Hence, all their families were concerned about the situation. Parents had gathered outside the college and were asking questions in great agitation. But no one was able to tell them anything. For even the heads of Imperial College didn't know what was going on in the Snowfield. The news got to the Feng clan. Feng Lu was over the moon when she heard it. "What? Say that again." Feng Lu stared at Kaiyue, her chambermaid. "What did you say?" "Miss Lu, all candidates are stuck in Proud Snowfield and have lost contact with people on the outside. No one knows what happened to them." Lady Wang patted her chest. "Xiao Lu, it's so lucky that you didn't get in, or I would be so worried now. All of them are stuck there, and they could be all dead by now, right?" Feng Lu said. "Such as Feng Wu, Chaoge, and Mu Yaoyao." "That's right," said Kaiyue. "Many families have gathered outside Imperial College and are asking for an explanation." Feng Lu was elated. Has Feng Wu's family heard about this? We've only just heard the news ourselves. That family has kept pretty much to themselves. I don't think they've been told yet. Feng Lu and Lady Wang exchanged looks. They hadn't? Good. Let's go. Lady Wang and Feng Lu headed for Fallen Star Yard. Feng Lu feared that her beautiful mother would be harassed after she and Chaoga left for the exam, so she had made arrangements beforehand. Uncle Chiu was to keep the gate shut and try to stay inside for as long as possible. Knock, knock, knock. Granny Gui banged on the door. But no one answered. Keep knocking. Lady Wang smirked. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. The door to the yard had been fortified, but the banging still almost shattered it. Who is it? Granny Zhao called out from inside, sounding displeased. Granny Zhao, it's me. We've got news about Miss Wu. Granny Gui and Lady Wang exchanged looks. Granny Zhao opened the door immediately at the mention of Feng Wu. She saw a large group of people outside, led by none other than Lady Wang herself. 873 A Kiss. Fourth, Granny Zhao asked in a hurry, what happened to Miss Wu? Lady Wang cast a stern look at her. You're just a maid. Show me to your lady now. Lady Wang, her ladyship isn't feeling well. Granny Zhao tried to stop Lady Wang from coming in. However, Lady Wang glared at her. Xiao Wu is dying and all she thinks about is herself. What kind of mother is she? Granny Zhao and Uncle Chiu exchanged looks of astonishment. Miss Wu is dying. How's that possible? Qiuling was bewildered. Qiuling was helping Lady Xuanji to her feet, and naturally, the lady heard the news as well. What? Xiao Wu is. Lady Xuanji turned ghastly pale. Tears welled up in her eyes and her knees buckled. What happened to Xiao Wu? Seeing how shocked Lady Xuanji was, Lady Wang felt she had vented her hatred. She smirked. Something disastrous has happened and they've lost contact with the candidates inside. I heard that the boss of all magical beasts, the Frosty Night Beast, has woken up. The other candidates at least have the ability to protect themselves, but your Feng Wu is simply too weak. Or shall we say, she's useless. Some candidates who have withdrawn from the exam said that your Xiao Wu is dead. My lady! My lady! Qiuling panicked when Lady Xuanji fainted in her arms. All hell broke loose in the courtyard. Lady Wang and Feng Lu promptly left the scene. The mother and daughter exchanged gloating smiles after they left the courtyard. Xiao Wu, my Xiao Wu, Lady Xuanji wept. My lady, please calm down. Everyone thinks Miss Wu has no cultivation ability at all, but Miss Wu is very capable. I'm sure she's fine. Qiuling knew that something had gone wrong, but it wasn't necessarily as serious as Lady Wang had described. She said to the others, my lady, please don't worry. I'll go to Northern Feng Mansion to ask Lady Northern Feng about it. I'm sure she can tell us something. Qiuling then went to talk to Lady Northern Feng. The guards recognized her from before and showed her in right away. Qiuling told Lady Northern Feng what happened. Lady Wang frowned. Lady Wang told you that? Qiuling nodded with a serious look on her face. Nonsense. Lady Northern Feng smacked her hand on the table. Something happened, which is why His Majesty sent His Royal Highness and Asun in to protect the candidates. If something that big happened, the Crown Prince would be in danger as well. Who told them that someone died? They're spreading rumors. So is Miss Wu all right? Lady Xuanji passed out when she heard the news, and she's still pale. Qiuling was anxious. Lady Northern Feng waved her hand. I'm coming with you. She arrived at Fallen Star Yard to find Lady Wang sitting next to Lady Xuanji's bed while holding the latter's hand. There was a faint sad look on Lady Wang's face. Sister-in-law, I've sent people out to ask around. Xiao Wu is really gone. I'm here to offer my condolences. Please take care of yourself. Lady Xuanji flared up and shoved Lady Wang away. You're a bad person. Go away. I'm not talking to you. Lady Wang looked pleased, but before she could go on, Lady Wang, I see you have nothing better to do these days. Are you having fun upsetting Lady Xuanji? Lady Northern Feng snorted. 874 A Kiss. 5. Lady Wang turned around to see Lady Northern Feng behind her. She didn't like the sight of Lady Northern Feng at all, but had to suppress that feeling. Not only that, she even had to put on a friendly smile. Lady Northern Feng. Lady Northern Feng smirked. Did you just say that my Xiao Wu is dead? My Xiao Wu. That was so affectionate. Despite her bitterness, Lady Wang had to squeeze out a smile. Your ladyship, I was only just told. From where and by whom? What were their words, exactly? I need names. Lady Northern Feng sneered. Imperial College hasn't given out any information so far. I'd like to see who's been spreading rumors and causing panic among the common folk. His Majesty and Her Majesty the Empress Dowager will hear about this. His Majesty and Her Majesty the Empress Dowager? Lady Wang panicked. No one had told her about Feng Wu's death. She had made it all up to shake Lady Xuanji. Your ladyship. Names. Now. Lady Northern Feng snapped. Instantly, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Lady Wang shuddered inwardly. Granny Tao, Lady Northern Feng's maid, fetched a writing brush and ink, and set them in front of Lady Wang. She then unscrolled some paper, dipped the writing brush in the ink, then handed it to Lady Wang. There you go. Lady Wang didn't know what to do. Anything she wrote down now would become evidence. If it really was taken to His Majesty, she would be charged for spreading rumors, and that was punishable by death. Lady Northern Feng was known for her dauntless behavior. That woman was capable of anything. The more Lady Wang thought about it, the more scared she got. Sweat trickled down her forehead. She could only plead with Lady Northern Feng. Your ladyship, I heard it from one of the maids. Which maid? Her name is Kaiyue. Where is Kaiyue? Kaiyue was shivering from head to toe already. She collapsed to the ground at Lady Northern Feng's voice. Granny Tao, take the girl next door and record down everything she says. Lady Northern Feng smirked. Granny Tao took Kaiyue away as if she was picking up a chicken. After that, Lady Northern Feng darted a glance at Lady Wang. Now, Lady Wang, tell me exactly what rumor Kaiyue told you. This had turned into an interrogation. Lady Wang flared up. Lady Northern Feng, are you questioning me now? My husband may not be as influential as yours, but he's at least the minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel. Please show me some respect. Lady Northern Feng scoffed at her words. Your husband's position is the only reason that you're being questioned here instead of at the Ministry of Punishments. You! Lady Wang's heart sank. It was just a little gossip. Could it be that serious? You have 10 seconds. After that, I'll leave things in the hands of the Ministry of Punishments. Lady Northern Feng snorted. His Majesty wants the name of the person that started the rumors. Lady Wang, was it you? Lady Wang blanched. Right at that moment. Smack! Ah! Smack! Ah! She heard the sound of whipping and wailing next door. Needless to say, Granny Tao was interrogating Kaiyue. Soon, the granny came back with a piece of paper. Lady Northern Feng took a look and glanced at Lady Wang with a half-smile. 875 A Kiss. 6. Lady Wang didn't dare hold back any information anymore. She said in a hurry, it was Kaiyue. She told me that Xiao Wu was dead. But this piece of paper tells me otherwise. Lady Northern Feng smiled. I wonder which of you is lying. Guards. Lady Wang was utterly flustered. With a wave of her hand, Lady Northern Feng said, take these two people away. Lady Northern Feng, you can't do this to me. I'm a fourth-ranked lady. You're suspected of spreading rumors and disturbing public order. I'll talk to Minister Feng himself if he has questions. Lock Lady Wang up in the prison at the Ministry of Punishments. Lady Wang was bewildered. This wasn't happening. She couldn't believe it. She was going to be locked up in the Ministry of Punishments because she made up a story about Feng Wu's death. She was the wife of the Minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel, for Christ's sake. However, no matter how loudly Lady Wang cried and how aggrieved she felt, she couldn't change Lady Northern Feng's mind. No one ever could. Seeing her mother being taken away, Feng Lu slipped away without a word. Lady Northern Feng shook her head as the girl ran away. Luckily, Ning Chenxi had discovered the truth in time. The entire Ning family would have been ruined if he married this girl. With Lady Wang's people taken away or scattering, Fallen Star Yard quieted down again. It was only now that the people of Fallen Star Yard could express their gratitude toward Lady Northern Feng. Lady Xuanji had the mind of a child, so Granny Zhao thanked Lady Northern Feng on her behalf. Your ladyship, it's all thanks to you that. It's the least I could do. Lady Northern Feng casually waved her off. Xiao Wu is my goddaughter and you're all family. Plus, if Xiao Wu finds out that I didn't help you when she was away, she'll hate me for it. Zhouling asked, Miss Wu is coming back, isn't she? We'll see her again, right? Lady Northern Feng said confidently, I wouldn't be so sure if His Majesty sent someone else in, but His Royal Highness is leading the rescue team himself. Even if you don't trust Xiao Wu, you should have faith in him. But Zhouling was still worried. So what if His Royal Highness was in there with them? He and her mistress didn't exactly see eye to eye. Would he really care about Miss Wu's well-being? Zhouling wasn't convinced. And my brat is with them, too. Lady Northern Feng knew how much Feng Sun cared about his little sister. Xiao Wu would always be his top priority. The entire imperial capital was in a panic. And all the pressure was on Grand Secretary Feng. In the imperial palace, cough, cough. Grand Secretary Feng broke out in a fit of coughing as he reported to the emperor. Feng, do slow down. Emperor Wu told the chief steward to fetch a chair for Grand Secretary Feng. I know that all eyes are on you at the moment. It's very unfortunate for you, having to handle a situation like this right after starting in your new position. But don't worry. The Crown Prince is in there with them. He'll figure everything out. Emperor Wu chuckled. Grand Secretary Feng sighed. I wouldn't be so worried if everything is as reported, but that sound before the communication was cut off came from something more powerful than a king of the magical beasts. I'm afraid that the Frosty Night Beast might have mutated. Are you sure? Emperor Wu frowned. 876 A Kiss. 7. Grand Secretary Feng nodded solemnly. Emperor Wu had been very confident about his decision before, but not anymore. He was agitated. Crossing his hands behind his back, he walked back and forth in the study. Are you sure about the mutation? Emperor Wu frowned at Grand Secretary Feng. Grand Secretary Feng nodded. I think it's highly likely. That's going to be problematic, said Emperor Wu. The Crown Prince specializes in the element of fire, whereas the Frosty Night Beast is a beast of ice. The two elements are in a balanced relationship. Now that the beast has mutated, my son is going to be in trouble. What? What do you mean he's in trouble? The Empress Dowager was taking a walk in the garden and happened to walk past the Emperor's study. She then decided to pop in to see if the father and son had been fighting again. Thus she heard mention of her baby Jun at the door, and made her way into the study. Emperor Wu buried his face in his hands. Had it been anyone else, the person would have been kicked out. However, it was his mother. Emperor Wu was going to find an excuse, but the Empress Dowager cut him off. No excuses. I want the truth. She had obviously overheard the conversation, there was no point trying to hide it from her anymore. Hence, Emperor Wu told her everything. The Empress Dowager almost choked on her own breath. Grabbing Emperor Wu, she ranted, "What's wrong with you? Why did you send baby Jun on such a dangerous mission? Do you hate your son?" "I knew it. You hate baby Jun." Emperor Wu was aggrieved. "Jun Linyuan wanted to go himself and I couldn't stop him." "Why did he do that?" "Well." Next to the Empress Dowager was none other than Empress Dugu. While the old lady was sick, Empress Dugu had made use of the opportunity and kept her company. The two were getting along much better now. And it would be against Empress Dugu's nature to let such an opportunity go to waste. "Mother, do you think that Miss Feng Wu could be the reason?" "What?" The Empress Dowager stared at her daughter-in-law. Empress Dugu smiled. "The rumor on the street is that His Royal Highness is in love with Miss Feng Wu. So, is it possible that His Royal Highness entered the region because of that? Where did that rumor come from?" The Empress Dowager flared up. I only heard it in passing. I'm sure it's just speculation. Find the person who started it." The Empress Dowager's face was livid. Grand Secretary Feng's heart sank when he heard the anger in the old lady's voice. It seemed that the Empress Dowager still didn't like Xiao Wu, even after the girls saved her life. "Why, isn't it Grand Secretary Feng?" Empress Dugu turned to Grand Secretary Feng. "I was told that you're Feng Wu's next-door neighbor." "That's right. What do you think of Miss Feng, then?" Empress Dugu was well connected. She had learned about the help Grand Secretary Feng gave Feng Wu during the written exam. Therefore, she had said that to make the Empress Dowager aware of the relationship between Grand Secretary Feng and Feng Wu, so that the old lady would find Grand Secretary Feng untrustworthy. That was her plan. As soon as Empress Dugu said that, the Empress Dowager stared at Grand Secretary Feng. "Feng, you've known Feng Wu for very long, then?" Grand Secretary Feng sighed inwardly, but only cupped his hands at the Empress Dowager. "Your Majesty, Xiao Wu is a modest and kind girl. Her cultivation doesn't stand out, but her formation and medical skills." 877 A Kiss. 8. Empress Dugu went on, "Wait. Grand Secretary Feng, did you just call Miss Feng Wu modest and kind? But from what I heard, she was a bully during the physical tryout and ruined someone's face." "She ruined someone's face?" The Empress Dowager was shocked. "That's right," said Empress Dugu. "And I heard that there was more than one person. The victims were all pretty girls who were quite capable in their cultivation skills." Sigh. Is Feng Wu jealous of others after losing her own ability? Irked, Grand Secretary Feng became much more serious when he said, "One shouldn't take rumors seriously." Empress Dugu was going to retort when Grand Secretary Feng casually said, "Moreover, it's common knowledge that Feng Wu has no cultivation ability. How can she bully other candidates, let alone ruin their faces?" "Well, she could have an accomplice. Who knows?" Empress Dugu chuckled. Emperor Wu interjected, "That's enough. What you're arguing about is highly inappropriate." Just then, footsteps came from outside. "Your Majesty, the head of the Zhou clan begs for an audience." The head of the Zhou clan was none other than Zhou Qingluan's father. What was he doing here? Grand Secretary Feng suddenly had a bad feeling about this. At the same time, the sky had cleared in proud Snowfield and the snow had stopped, but it was much colder. All the candidates drew in their breaths after they walked out of their little caves. "It's freezing. Why is it much colder, even after the sun is out? Oh God, we'd have frozen to death if we stayed outside last night. We're so fortunate to have Feng Wu. She told us to hide in the holes we dug. Otherwise, all of us would be dead by now. Miss Feng Wu taught us more than that. She also told us to keep warm with heated stones." Mu Yaoyao woke up to such a conversation, and her face darkened right away. She had been the center of all the attention before, but now. The others weren't exactly impolite to her, but they obviously had more respect for Feng Wu now, and Mu Yaoyao found that unacceptable. "By the way, where's Miss Feng?" I'd like to thank her in person. Look, Miss Feng has come out. However, a gust of wind swept across the campsite when they were going to talk to Feng Wu. It was freezing. They turned to see the crown prince behind them. Wrapped in a thick cape, the teenager looked majestic and authoritative. He gave off an intimidating air. Right now, he was headed for Feng Wu's tent, eyes fixed in front of him. No. Everyone's stomachs lurched. The crown prince looked like he was going to arrest someone. Who else could it be? Was Feng Wu going to be in trouble? Before, everyone would have taken pleasure in Feng Wu's predicament. But now, they weren't heartless people. Feng Wu had saved Gongsun Qing with her own blood, and taught them the trick with the snow caves and heated stones. They couldn't even bring themselves to say anything bad about Feng Wu, let alone stand around when the girl was about to get into trouble. What should we do now? Many candidates were flustered. Meanwhile, Xian Yi was saying a silent prayer next to Jun Linyuan. After everything he had done to prepare the young couple, all they needed was a little push in the back. Your Royal Highness, please don't blow this again. Of course, Xian Yi didn't let any of this show on his face. Holding his sword inside his crossed arms, he looked as solemn as a young lord should. The crown prince kept his gaze on Feng Wu the entire time. 878 His Royal Highness likes you. 1. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. By the looks of His Royal Highness's demeanor, was he going to give Feng Wu a hard time again? Needless to say, Mu Yaoyao was grinning. However, most of the others were grateful for Feng Wu's help and were concerned. Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu. His eyes flickered, his face was impassive, and he pursed his lips. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. Shit! Jun Linyuan was here to ask her about what happened last night. Looking around, Feng Wu saw that all eyes were on them. If this got out, she would be facing the greatest humiliation of her life. Vexed, Feng Wu threw a dirty look at Xian Yi. However, Xian Yi seemed to be ignoring her in favor of looking at Jun Linyuan the whole time. A million ideas flashed across Feng Wu's mind. Luckily, she was level-headed enough to keep her face straight. Feng Wu, last night. The look on Feng Wu's face changed as soon as Jun Linyuan began to speak. What happened last night? I was treating my patients the whole time and never set foot outside the tent. Feng Wu stoutly denied. But I saw you last night. You were only dreaming. Feng Wu almost panicked. The gossip of her climbing into Jun Linyuan's bed had already gone viral. If the guy began to talk about her coming to him last night in front of everyone, and told the others what happened after she got there, she would be ruined. Feng Wu was shivering inwardly. Jun Linyuan sneered at Feng Wu. She couldn't read the emotion in his eyes. Still staring at Feng Wu, Jun Linyuan said, "Walk with me." He promptly turned to leave after that. And he walked fast. Feng Wu secretly let out a breath of relief. She racked her brain for a way out as she followed Jun Linyuan. "Feng Wu, good luck." Someone called out from the crowd. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder and saw that it was Shi Xian. Several others followed suit and cheered for her with waving fists. "Feng Wu, we believe you. Don't worry, Feng Wu. We got your back." Feng Wu. Feng Wu was bewildered. This wasn't right. Didn't these people hate her? She had lost count of all the things they had been saying about her. Their biggest wish was probably for her to disappear forever. But how come their attitudes had now changed? That was so strange. However, Feng Wu didn't have time to care about what other people thought of her now. Her top priority was to deal with the intimidating crown prince in front of her. Feng Wu had to admit that if she were the one that got drugged in the middle of the night and kissed against her will, she'd be pissed, too. No, she would be furious. Feng Wu cringed a little. She was in a lot of trouble. Thump. Feng Wu was too lost in her thoughts to watch where she was going. Jun Linyuan just happened to halt at that moment and turned around. Hence, Feng Wu bumped into Jun Linyuan's chest. She might as well be throwing herself at him. Feng Wu was so embarrassed when she realized that. She would never be able to explain herself. Rubbing her nose, Feng Wu gave Jun Linyuan an accusing look. The pain brought tears to her eyes and she wrinkled her nose. His chest was so hard. She thought she had broken her nose or something. Jun Linyuan's eyes were frighteningly bright as he stared at Feng Wu. They were a little red from lack of sleep. 879 His Royal Highness likes you. 2. Of course he didn't get enough sleep. After what happened last night, he tossed and turned in bed and didn't get any sleep. That was Jun Linyuan's very first time experiencing a sleepless night. Jun Linyuan's gaze was sharp and brooding. Feng Wu stared back at him with accusing eyes. A strange awkwardness hung in the air. You, both spoke at the same time. And they stopped right away. They spoke in unison again. And were both cut off once more. The awkwardness was back. That was because both of them were recalling what happened last night. Ahem, in the end, the Crown Prince broke the silence. His gaze never moved away the whole time. Don't you have anything to say to me? Jun Linyuan raised his chin. Feng Wu decided that she would continue acting. What should I say? What should she say? Jun Linyuan could hear blood rumbling in his ears as he glared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu took a step back, prepared to flee. Jun Linyuan just looked so frightening now. The look he gave her reminded her of a jaguar staring at its prey. Pursing his lips, Jun Linyuan narrowed his eyes. You want to run away from me? He grabbed Feng Wu's wrist and tightened his grip. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. That hurts. But the teenager didn't loosen his grip. Instead, his gaze only became fiercer. Feng Wu thought he was going to snap her wrist. She drew in her breath. Jun Linyuan, what on earth do you want from me? Last night at about 12:45, you were in my cabin. Jun Linyuan squeezed out those words through gritted teeth. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu feigned a casual tone. I see. That's what you're here for. Feng Wu paused for effect. Jun Linyuan snorted. Finally, the girl was going to admit what she had done. Feng Wu said, well, if that's why you're mad, you can have my apology. It really was my fault. Jun Linyuan glanced at her arrogantly. He didn't expect this unruly girl to say sorry. Feng Wu grinned and said apologetically, I made a bet with Xian Yi and lost. That was why I was in your room last night. The proud look disappeared from Jun Linyuan's face immediately and he looked like he was going to explode. But Feng Wu didn't notice any of that. She sighed. Chaoga needed cleansing bee pills and Xian Yi had them. That was why I accepted the bet. Feng Wu had no problem selling Xian Yi out. Achoo! The teenager in a green robe and with a sword between his crossed arms stood ramrod straight in the wind. He sneezed all of a sudden. Feng Sun was bemused. Xian II, are you all right? Yes. Xian Yi darted a look in the direction that Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan had disappeared in. I think. However, he thought wrong. He was going to be in so much trouble. Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu. What did you just say? What kept him awake the whole night turned out to be a bet. Someone as proud as Jun Linyuan could never accept such an explanation. His face turned livid. Seeing the grim look on his face and his stiff back, Feng Wu tried to appease him. Oh my, just think of it as a dream. You don't even like me, so it shouldn't affect you at all. Shouldn't affect him? Jun Linyuan wished that was the case. But he was affected. 880 His Royal Highness likes you. 3. Jun Linyuan's gaze was sharper than a blade and he flushed when he said, but you kissed me. Feng Wu waved her hand in a devil-may-care manner. You know what? Just think of it as a mosquito bite or something. I don't even care that much myself, so why should it bother a guy like you? It's not like you've lost anything. Jun Linyuan was infuriated. Their lips had touched. How could she think so little of it? He was losing sleep over what happened, but she brushed it off just like that. The crown prince was so mad that he couldn't think straight. He forgot all his words. Why, you Jezebel! Feng Wu had planned to coax the guy until he calmed down, but she snapped when she heard what Jun Linyuan said. What did you just call me? Feng Wu rested her hands on her waist. Did you just shame my honor? Jun Linyuan glared at Feng Wu, his face livid. A bet? A joke? He had just been made fun of. He promptly turned to leave. Jun Linyuan. Stop right there. I need an explanation. Who gave you the right to call me that? Feng Wu yelled after Jun Linyuan, but the guy had disappeared into the distance. She stomped her foot in frustration. It was only supposed to be a joke. She lost the bet and she had to honor her word. That was why she kissed him. What did shame have anything to do with it? What a bummer. Meanwhile, the crown prince thought he looked like he was surrounded by the coldest air. Wherever he went, everything in his way froze instantly. When he walked past Xian Yi and Feng Sun was flustered. Where's my sister? Boss Jun, where's my sister? Feng Sun looked behind Jun Linyuan, but didn't find Feng Wu anywhere. He panicked. Jun Linyuan had a murderous look in his eyes. And he was staring at Xian Yi. Xian Yi's heart sank. No! Feng Wu had sold him out. I'll go check up on my sister. However, Feng Sun didn't get a chance to finish his sentence. Jun Linyuan's cold voice cut him off. Come with me. Both of you. Feng Sun and Xian Yi exchanged looks, one bewildered and the other conflicted. Feng Sun had no idea what was going on, but Xian Yi had an inkling. He rubbed his nose with a wry smile. Judging by Boss Jun's mood, he had failed at this task again. Xian Yi couldn't for the life of him figure out what was going on. It was so obvious that Boss Jun was in love with the girl and he had thought that the cat would be out of the bag with just a little push. But I think they'll need a lot more than a push. Xian Yi smiled bitterly. Who needs what? Feng Sun was at a loss. Xian Yi said, forget about who or what. My problem now is that nature's calling. Feng Sun waved him off. I'll go find Boss Jun first. Sure. Poor Feng Sun, he went to Jun Linyuan without a clue about anything. Seeing Feng Sun arrive on his own, Jun Linyuan frowned and his face grew darker. Feng Sun asked, Boss Jun, what do you need us for? A duel. Feng Sun almost choked. Last time when Boss Jun said those words, Feng Sun ended up bedridden for nearly a month. So, when he heard those words again, Feng Sun's first reaction was to flee. However, the crown prince would never let his punching bag escape. 881 His Royal Highness likes you. 4. Jun Linyuan grabbed Feng Sun by the back of his collar. Xian Yi, who had been hiding behind a pile of snow, lost all courage and decided not to show his face after all. Feng Sun cried out, Boss Jun, I don't want to fight you. I admit defeat. I give up. No, you're not. This isn't a duel, but a one-sided thrashing. Please let me go. I don't want to be your punching bag. Fight me, then. Jun Linyuan smirked. He had to vent his rage, and anyone could be the target. Not to mention that Feng Sun was little Feng Wu's brother. Shortly afterward, everyone heard Feng Sun screaming in the distance. Feng Wu rushed to his rescue. Seeing how Jun Linyuan was treating Feng Sun, Feng Wu lost her temper. She stood between the two guys and faced Jun Linyuan with her arms spread out. Jun Linyuan's hand was smashing down in Feng Wu's direction. Ah! Everyone cried out in fear. Feng Wu's head would be split open if that fist landed on her head. Did His Royal Highness hate Feng Wu that much? Feng Wu was actually a nice person. Feng Wu closed her eyes in fear. The wind grazed against her cheek like a sharp razor. For a moment there, Feng Wu thought she was going to die. The fist was only a few centimeters from Feng Wu's face now. Holy shit! Many covered their eyes. They couldn't bring themselves to watch this anymore. It was too frightening. However, Jun Linyuan's fist missed Feng Wu's head by a millimeter at the last moment. SSSS. Feng Wu drew in her breath. She had really thought she was going to die. Jun Linyuan paused and stared at Feng Wu with a brooding and fierce look in his eyes. He wouldn't be challenged like this. The air felt very heavy. Many were worried about Feng Wu. Someone said quietly, "Actually, Feng Wu is a really nice person." Once that was out, everyone began to gingerly speak their minds. "Your Royal Highness, Feng Wu's really kind. She taught us to hide in the snow caves. And she told us to keep warm with heated stones. And Your Royal Highness, please forgive Feng Wu," someone called out. At those words, many dropped to their knees and called out, "Your Royal Highness, please forgive Feng Wu." Jun Linyuan was speechless. He was so mad that he wanted to throttle the girl, but of course he couldn't bring himself to do it. However, he didn't expect her to be so popular. Throwing a dirty look at Feng Wu, the crown prince stormed off. Shi Xian and the others were baffled. They did it. Feng Wu, Feng Wu, everyone rushed to Feng Wu and gathered around her in bewilderment. What did you do? Why is His Royal Highness so mad? That's an understatement. He was going to kill Xiao Wu. Well, all is fine now. Xiao Wu, I'd stay out of His Royal Highness's way if I were you. You might get killed for no reason. All right? Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Well, Feng Wu, what was that all about? Feng Wu scratched her head. She couldn't tell them that she had snuck into Jun Linyuan's bedroom in the middle of the night, even if she had only been fulfilling her promise. I have no idea. Feng Wu rubbed her head and put on an innocent look. Recalling how unpredictable the crown prince was, everyone sighed in resignation. The guy was a mystery. Poor little Feng Wu. 882 His Royal Highness likes you. 5. Come over here. Feng Sun led Feng Wu to the back of the pile of snow. Xian Yi tried to sneak off, but Feng Sun dragged him back. The three of them were the only ones left in the clearing. Because of the chilly wind, all three crouched down and formed a circle. Feng Sun asked Feng Wu right away, "I didn't want to ask you in front of all those people, but we're alone now. My dear sister, what did you say to Boss Jun just then?" Feng Wu looked the most innocent. "Nothing." Feng Sun snorted. If that's the case, why was Boss Jun so pissed? Feng Wu said, "He's always pissed." Feng Sun rubbed his nose. She was right. But he was especially pissed this time. He even forced me into a duel. Feng Sun had yet to recover from the shock. Patting his chest, he said, "Boss Jun did it once before. He dragged me into a duel last time for no reason, too." Feng Wu frowned. "My dear brother, I wouldn't call ass-kicking a duel." Feng Sun was almost in tears. "Can you at least try to be tactful about it? Although, you do have a point. Boss Jun never fights or duels, he only beats people up or kills them." Feng Wu didn't know what to say. "I told him no, but you know what he told me? I was going to be his partner in training." Feng Sun sounded frustrated. "You have to be an equal match to be a partner in training. Do you think that's what I am? An equal match?" Feng Wu rubbed her nose. "Not really. You don't say." Feng Sun stomped his foot. "A partner in training for him is as good as a punching bag." Feng Wu and Xian Yi nodded in unison. Feng Sun darted an aggrieved glance at Xian Yi. "Xian II, why are you always so lucky?" Xian Yi was confused. "Ha!" Feng Sun said, "You just happened to hear the call of nature at that moment?" We could at least have shared the beating if you were with me. Xian Yi rubbed his nose. Well. Feng Wu and Xian Yi exchanged looks. They reached an agreement right away. No one was to talk about that bet. Feng Wu looked at Feng Sun sympathetically. Feng the Third, it must have been so hard keeping yourself alive when growing up with Jun Linyuan. It wasn't always like this. Boss Jun is really, really angry this time. Feng Sun shook his head. He's really that pissed? Yes. Isn't he always angry? He's not. His mind was wandering off just this morning. And not only was he absent-minded, he was even smiling a little. He was in a good mood, Feng Sun said with a long face. He was so confused. Xian Yi gave Feng Sun a thumbs up in his head. He then checked the look on Feng Wu's face. A girl as bright as little Feng Wu had to be able to see through His Royal Highness's abnormal behavior right away. However, to Xian Yi's disappointment, Feng Wu frowned. That's strange. If that's the case, he wasn't angry this morning. Feng Sun nodded. But wasn't he all furious when he came to me just then? That's right. Why was that? Exchanging looks, Feng Sun and Feng Wu said in unison, he finds you, me, annoying. What a frustrating discovery. Both Feng Wu and Feng Sun lowered their heads, looking defeated. No. It wasn't like that. Next to them, Xian Yi was exasperated. Why were these two smart people behaving like a pair of idiots now? They were on the wrong track. 883 His Royal Highness likes you. 6. Xian Yi tried to lead them in the right direction. Do you think there's another possibility? What is that? Feng Wu and Feng Sun turned their heads in unison and stared at Xian Yi. Is it possible that Boss Jun actually likes little Feng Wu? Ha ha ha. Feng Wu and Feng Sun guffawed, and both gave Xian Yi "you idiot" looks. Xian Yi rubbed his forehead. He had thought that Boss Jun was the only one that wouldn't admit his true feelings, but as it turned out, Feng Wu was no better. Boss Jun was doomed to have a very bumpy journey in his quest to court his beloved girl. Xian Yi, are you even listening to yourself? Can you tell the difference between liking a person and not? Feng Sun was baffled. Has Boss Jun ever shown Feng Wu any kindness from the moment they met for the first time? He's either frowning or pissed off. When he doesn't storm off, he tries to beat her up. And you call that liking her? Xian Yi was rendered speechless. He wanted to help Boss Jun out, he really did, but there was nothing he could do. Well, where were we? Feng Sun ignored Xian Yi and went back to Feng Wu. Your Boss Jun is very angry. Yes, he is. He's exceptionally angry this time. He wasn't like this before. He used to be so graceful, aloof, and majestic. He never showed his emotions. A volcano could erupt right in front of him and he wouldn't even blink. But how many times has he lost control so far? Rubbing his chin, Feng Sun was all the more confused. Since when did all this start? When? Feng Wu frowned. All of a sudden, Feng Sun raised his head and stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu flinched. What? That look gave her the creeps. Feng Sun grabbed Feng Wu's arm. It all started at the northern border. More precisely, it all started after he met you. Xian Yi wanted to applaud Feng Sun. He decided that he would keep his silence, for whenever he spoke, Feng Sun would misunderstand him and lead the conversation in the wrong direction. Feng Wu frowned. Are you saying that I'm the reason that he's mad? Feng Sun nodded. Yup. I made him lose control. Feng Sun nodded. Yup. Does he hate me that much? Seriously? Feng Sun nodded. Yup. Defeated, Feng Wu lowered her head. She looked crestfallen. I don't even know what I did wrong. Why does he hate me so much? It's like I should never have been born. Feng Sun rubbed her head. Don't be upset. I'll always be on your side, even if Boss Jun doesn't like you. I'll protect you. Xian Yi's mouth fell open. He couldn't do this anymore. These two people would give him a heart attack if he stayed here any longer. Rising to his feet, he shook his head and left in disappointment. Watching Xian Yi leave, Feng Wu and Feng Sun moved closer. Feng Wu said, "Is Xian Yi upset?" Feng Sun didn't think much of it. He's never cheerful. Recalling Xian Yi's poker face, Feng Wu nodded, agreeing with Feng Sun. 884 His Royal Highness likes you. 7. Poor Xian Yi. He hardly ever poked his nose into other people's business, but the people concerned kept misunderstanding each other. To say that he was mentally fatigued would be an understatement. However, at that moment, rumble. There was an ear-splitting rumbling sound. Feng Wu and Feng Sun exchanged looks and saw fear on each other's faces. Shit! Their worst fear had just come true. The next thing they knew, a thundering noise made the ground tremble. And it was followed by the blast from a sound wave. Even Feng Wu and Feng Sun almost lost their footing, not to mention the others. The impact of such an explosive sound on a snowfield. Involuntarily, Feng Wu looked up at the mountains in the distance. As expected, large quantities of snow were tumbling down the slope like a landslide. From a distance, the rush of snow reminded one of a tidal wave. Shit! It's an avalanche! Feng Wu and Feng Sun cried out in unison. Both blanched. The snow rushed in their direction with a tremendous force. It was beyond control. Run! Feng Wu and Feng Sun cried out and both turned to run as fast as they could. By then, the others in the campsite had also noticed what was going on. Run! Everybody, run! You'll die if you're buried in the snow! Feng Sun shouted at the top of his voice. He was never the responsible type, but their duty here was to keep these candidates safe. Everybody, run! Quickly! Feng Sun looked nervously at the avalanche a short distance away as he gave instructions to the candidates. He had only turned his head for a minute or so, but by the time he realized it, Feng Wu was nowhere to be found. Feng Wu? Where's Feng Wu? Feng Sun panicked. Xian Yi was flustered when he heard Feng Sun shout her name. What did you say? What happened to little Feng Wu? Where is she? Feng Sun was exasperated. I have no idea. She was just here. I looked away for a second and she disappeared. She has no spiritual essence whatsoever, she'll be killed if she gets buried. Xian Yi said, well, the snow is the last thing I'm worried about now, that frosty night beast will gladly have her for a snack. Feng Sun was speechless. Xian Yi was as exasperated as he was. Everyone else didn't know about Jun Linyuan's feelings, but Xian Yi did. If anything happened to Feng Wu, there would be nothing left of this entire proud snowfield. Feng Sun and Xian Yi looked everywhere, but Feng Wu was nowhere to be found. Where had that girl gone? All the candidates had rushed out of hiding and were headed east. Feng Wu. Little Feng Wu. Feng Wu, the avalanche was almost upon them, but Feng Sun and Xian Yi were still in the campsite. Many candidates were worried sick. Just then, a figure landed in front of Feng Sun and Xian Yi. He was obviously irritated. What are you still doing here? Can't you see the avalanche? Get out of here, the Crown Prince snapped. Feng Sun couldn't care less if the Crown Prince hated Feng Wu or not. He said in a hurry, Boss Jun, help. I can't find little Feng Wu anywhere. What should I do? Little Feng Wu. She was missing. They were surrounded by rolling snow and a hubbub of noise, but all Jun Linyuan could hear was, little Feng Wu was missing. Boss Jun, is little Feng Wu going to die? Sob, she's my only sister. 885 Confrontation 1. Before Feng Sun could utter another word, Jun Linyuan had grabbed him by the throat. His grip was so tight that blue veins popped on the back of his hand. His eyes were bloodshot red, so much so that he might be weeping blood. His bellow was louder than the howling wind. "Where did you last see her?" "I can't remember. She was just there." Jun Linyuan followed Feng Sun's gaze and something fierce flickered in his eyes. The next second, whoosh! Jun Linyuan jabbed the tip of his sword into the ground. Thump! Blood spurted out, splashing all over Feng Sun's face. Feng Sun was speechless. Before he realized it, Jun Linyuan had disappeared from sight. Back in the imperial capital. In the imperial palace, the Empress Dowager was throwing a tantrum when Master Bai came into the hall. "Your Majesty, Zhou Ming, the head of the Zhou clan, begs for an audience." Emperor Wu frowned a little. The generation in charge of the Zhou clan consisted of 2 male descendants. The elder one was Zhou He, who had died at Feng Wu's hands. Zhou Ming, the younger of the brothers, was the more accomplished one. Hence, he was the head of the clan. Why had he come here now? "Bring him in." Zhou Ming walked into the hall to find that Emperor Wu wasn't the only one there. The Empress Dowager and Grand Secretary Feng were both looking at him. Zhou Ming's eyes met Empress Dugu's briefly and both looked away almost immediately. They were cousins. However, most people didn't know that they used to live in the same house when they were little, and had been very close ever since. "Your Majesty." Emperor Wu nodded and gestured at him to stand up. "Zhou, you look shaken. What happened?" Zhou Ming said, "Your Majesty, something's wrong with proud Snowfield." Emperor Wu glanced at him. "I've been told." Zhou Ming bowed again. "Your Majesty, Imperial College has lost contact with those in the Snowfield." Emperor Wu nodded again. Zhou Ming darted a look at Grand Secretary Feng. "I wonder if Grand Secretary Feng has any suggestions on how to re-establish communications." Grand Secretary Feng frowned. He now knew why Zhou Ming had come here in person. He was that man's real target. Grand Secretary Feng said quietly, "Not yet." Zhou Ming smiled a little. "Your Majesty, I have an idea." "Really?" Emperor Wu looked at Zhou Ming. The Empress Dowager was elated. She was worried sick about Jun Linyuan's safety, and she wanted more than anything to see her grandson. However, women weren't supposed to be involved in politics and she couldn't say anything. She only stared at Emperor Wu. Emperor Wu showed no emotion on his face, and only said in an indifferent tone, "Zhou, do you have any suggestions?" Zhou Ming said, "Your Majesty, I made some progress in my teleportation skills a few days ago, and I think I can be of help." Emperor Wu's eyes lit up. Zhou Ming was an impressive cultivator to begin with. Now that he had made some progress, his teleportation skills could be very helpful. Zhou Ming said proudly, "Only a handful of people in the Junmu Empire are more advanced than I am in teleportation skills, but I'm the only one here in court. Therefore, Your Majesty, I promise I'll do my best if given the authority." Zhou Ming knelt down and prostrated on the ground as he paid the highest respect by kowtowing. Emperor Wu narrowed his eyes. He looked from a pile of memorials on his desk to the aggressive Zhou Ming on the floor. So, a lot of people wanted Grand Secretary Feng to lose his job. If Zhou Ming let out this piece of information, the families of the candidates would lose control. Grand Secretary Feng only smiled. Chapter 886 He and She. Your Majesty, if Mr. Zhou can re-establish communications, we should consider granting him the level of authority he needs. Emperor Wu rolled his eyes at Grand Secretary Feng. Easy for you to say. Once that was granted, it would be impossible to take away. Moreover, even if he could, Grand Secretary Feng's authority as the acting principal would be undermined, and Zhou Ming would gain popularity. Who should be named principal of Imperial College, then? Grand Secretary Feng smiled. I see that Mr. Zhou is very confident. A crooked smile appeared on Zhou Ming's face, giving him a cunning look. Naturally. Grand Secretary Feng asked, what if you can't restore communications? Zhuo Ming retorted, do you have any idea how many parents are eager for news from inside, or how many candidates' lives are in danger? They may have a chance to be rescued now, but Mr. Feng, you're depriving them of that chance for some personal reason. Mr. Feng, can you take full responsibility for the consequences? Zhuo Ming was indeed as imposing as the father of Zhuo Qinghuan should be. He targeted Grand Secretary Feng, and his tone was relentless. Grand Secretary Feng frowned a little. He had an inkling that Zhuo He, the previous acting principal, had been killed by Feng Wu. He even had a hunch that the Zhuo family had something to do with the loss of Feng Wu's cultivation ability back then. Hence, there was a grim look on Grand Secretary Feng's face when he looked at Zhuo Ming again. Was the man here just for the position of principal? Or, did he want something else? Grand Secretary Feng narrowed his eyes. Meanwhile, in proud Snowfield. Feng Wu was woken up by the bitterly cold air. She realized that she was lying on the ground, and the blazing sun above stung her eyes. She could hear the sounds of fighting. Turning her head, Feng Wu saw a snowy white magical beast with the head of a dragon and the body of a lion. The frosty night beast? Hadn't Jun Linyuan killed it already? She had even swallowed its internal elixir. This wasn't right. It then occurred to Feng Wu that the frosty night beast could have several shadow forms. What Jun Linyuan killed was one of the shadows, not the actual beast itself. Thump. Feng Wu saw Jun Linyuan and the beast fighting fiercely in midair. Jun Linyuan's blade glinted, both were attacking to kill. Feng Wu wanted to sit up, but grimaced when she felt a sting in her chest. Looking down, she saw that the front of her clothes was smeared with blood, which looked rather frightening. It hurt a lot. Feng Wu drew in a breath. She had a feeling that the bleeding had stopped, but her movement had torn open the wound, and the blood oozed out again. It hurt. Feng Wu felt dizzy and almost fainted. Her vision went dark. All of a sudden, she noticed a shadow moving her way, blocking out the sun. Looking up, Feng Wu realized in astonishment that the frosty night beast was charging at her at a tremendous speed. Its claws were sharper than any blade. Feng Wu knew what happened right away. The wound on her chest were from the claws of that frosty night beast. No wonder there was more than one cut. That beast simply moved too fast. Feng Wu didn't have time to react. But even if she did, she couldn't escape either, for her movements were hampered by her injury. The claws were less than 50 centimeters from Feng Wu. Whoosh! A sword came out of nowhere and hacked down at the beast's claws. Crack! Chapter 887 What Happens in the Snowfield. 1. 3 claws were chopped off at the base. And 3 streams of blood spurted out. The blood caught Feng Wu right in the face, and she was stunned. The frosty night beast darted a malicious glance at Feng Wu. It could sense its internal elixir on the girl. After another brooding look, the beast turned around and fled. The sword also spun in midair before it flew back to Jun Linyuan's hand. Only then was Feng Wu able to breathe again. She had been holding her breath since the beast showed up. The pressure had been suffocating. Looking around, Feng Wu saw that she and Jun Linyuan were the only people here, for as far as the eye could see. The crown prince put down his sword and marched toward her. His black hair and long robe flapped in the wind, and he looked every bit what an extraordinary swordsman should look like. For some unknown reason, Feng Wu couldn't look away from him. Are we the only ones here? Where are the other people? I can't see any of them here. As soon as Feng Wu opened her mouth, Jun Linyuan crouched down and glared at her. Feng Wu was bewildered. You! Jun Linyuan lashed out at her. Are you an idiot? Why didn't you hide from that beast? Feng Wu was at a loss. How was I supposed to know it was coming? It snatched me before I realized it. I'm as baffled as you are. Face dark, Jun Linyuan rose to his feet and turned to leave. Feng Wu was exasperated. As far as she could see, the two of them were the only people here. And that frosty night beast was lurking somewhere. She would have no chance if he left without her. Feng Wu cherished her life. The next moment, she reached out and grabbed Jun Linyuan's sleeve. The crown prince glared at Feng Wu over his shoulder. Feng Wu smiled obsequiously. Teehee. This is so unexpected, but I'm sure there's a reason fate brought us together here, right? Jun Linyuan rolled his eyes at Feng Wu. Fate had nothing to do with any of this. He had been keeping an eye on her and came here to find her as soon as he realized something was wrong. Otherwise, even he wouldn't have been able to catch up with that frosty night beast. She had been that close to getting killed. At that thought, Jun Linyuan looked even grimmer and threw another dirty look at Feng Wu. Feng Wu bit her lower lip. What should she do now? Jun Linyuan looked really mad. Although, he always looked mad. Tugging at Jun Linyuan's wide sleeve, Feng Wu swayed his hand back and forth and pleaded in a soft voice, "Your Royal Highness, aren't you here to protect the candidates?" "Well, I'm one of them, aren't I?" "So, you won't leave me behind, will you?" Frowning at Feng Wu, Jun Linyuan said through gritted teeth, "Let go." Feng Wu shook her head repeatedly. If Jun Linyuan left now, that beast would come after her right away and rip her open for its internal elixir. No. Biting her lower lip, Feng Wu looked at the crown prince from under her long eyelashes. She looked like she was going to cry. "Please, please don't leave me here," sob. "Forget dignity. Or self-respect. Those could all wait when her life wasn't hanging in the balance." Feng Wu kept darting pleading looks at Jun Linyuan. The crown prince sighed inwardly in resignation, but when he spoke, he sounded as impatient as ever. "Do you want your wounds treated or not?" Chapter 888 What Happens in the Snowfield? 2. Ha! Right. Feng Wu's face lit up. Face dark, Jun Linyuan crouched down in front of Feng Wu. He reached out toward Feng Wu's heart with his slender fingers. Feng Wu reacted instinctively. Covering her chest with both hands, she stared at Jun Linyuan, alarmed. "Excuse me?" The look on his face was indifferent. "You don't want to be treated, then?" I can do it myself." Jun Linyuan snorted. "The beast's claws pierced all the way through from your shoulder blade. Are you going to treat that all by yourself?" Feng Wu hesitated. "But..." Darting an arrogant glance at Feng Wu's chest, Jun Linyuan rose to his feet. Are you leaving?" Feng Wu's stomach lurched. The guy kept silent. Feng Wu sighed inwardly. It seemed that Jun Linyuan had lost his patience. He had every right to. Right now, she was a burden, and one that wouldn't leave him alone. The more she thought about it, the more frustrated Feng Wu became. Jun Linyuan looked over his shoulder to find the girl puffing out her cheeks. She seemed dispirited. No man could stay unmoved when he was around such a girl. The crown prince gave in. He crouched down in front of her again. Only this time. Whoosh. Feng Wu's shirt was torn open at the shoulder. "Ah!" Feng Wu cried out in surprise, scrambled back until she was sitting against a snow wall, and stared at Jun Linyuan in fright. The look on Jun Linyuan's stunning face was very serious and his gaze was intense. Fury filled his eyes when he saw the mangled wounds on her back. It looked like his eyes were spitting fire. Her skin was fairer than the first snow. Looking into Jun Linyuan's bright eyes, Feng Wu saw a mix of emotions in them. There was rage, sympathy, passion, enthusiasm, and many more that she couldn't comprehend. "Close your eyes." Jun Linyuan took a cape out of nowhere and tossed it over Feng Wu's head. It was big enough to cover an entire person. Feng Wu was freezing, so this was a timely gift. Jun Linyuan was in fact a very decent man. He only tore open her shirt enough to reveal her wounds. So, Feng Wu quickly calmed down after the initial panic. Jun Linyuan, on the other hand, was covered in sweat. "Is it that warm?" Feng Wu looked at him in bewilderment. They were so close that Feng Wu could count the beads of sweat on his smooth forehead. Jun Linyuan still had that grim look on his face and he didn't want to talk to her. Feng Wu could even sense his hot breath on her skin. Your breath is so hot. Have you caught a cold? Feng Wu was concerned and she felt Jun Linyuan's forehead for his temperature. Her cold fingers touched his hot skin. Both shuddered involuntarily. The crown prince ground his teeth. Didn't the girl know how arousing this was? Don't touch me. Jun Linyuan raised his voice, his tone aloof and emotionless. Feng Wu pursed her lips. She was only trying to be kind, but he only yelled at her in return. How frustrating. Come to think of it, it was only natural for Jun Linyuan to hate her touch, for he had always found her repulsive. But she had only done it out of habit as a physician. Chapter 889 What Happens in the Snowfield 3. Darting another look at Jun Linyuan, Feng Wu drew back her hand. She ground her teeth and gave Jun Linyuan an aggrieved look. Jun Linyuan also regretted scolding her, but he was too proud to apologize. He only went on treating Feng Wu's wound with a poker face. For a moment, it was very quiet and awkward. Thank you for saving me. Feng Wu broke the silence. Jun Linyuan darted a look at Feng Wu, but didn't say anything. Can you tell me how the others are doing? Are they alive? Are they in a safe place? And you Minji? The crown prince had softened a little, but his gaze sharpened again at the mention of that name. He looked ferocious. Feng Wu flinched. Stealing a glance at Jun Linyuan, Feng Wu murmured, and there you were, saying you've never considered him an equal match. Then don't flare up whenever his name is mentioned. It's like he killed your dad or something. The crown prince's face was even grimmer. Feng Wu gave in. Fine, I won't mention his name. She rubbed her nose. Since Jun Linyuan was obviously annoyed, she decided she wouldn't ask and be rebuffed again. The awkwardness set in once more. Jun Linyuan rose to his feet all of a sudden and Feng Wu looked up as well. Are you trying to freeze to death? No, Feng Wu shook her head immediately. There you go. The crown prince didn't look at her when he began to cast a spell with his nimble fingers. Soon. Feng Wu had been sitting against a snow wall. With Jun Linyuan's movements, 3 more walls rose up and converged above their heads to form a dome. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. The guy had just built a solid snow house in under a minute. That was spectacular. Feng Wu stared at the house in amazement. She was still savoring the sculpture-like roof when Jun Linyuan turned to leave. Where are you going? Feng Wu cried out. He had bandaged her up and built her a house. Did he think he had done enough and was going to leave her here? If this were any other day, Feng Wu would happily see the man off. However, that frosty night beast was lurking somewhere. It would be able to turn Feng Wu into a pancake with a single strike. She didn't want to die. I'm going hunting. He left after those words and was soon out of sight. Well, he should be back soon, right? Feng Wu wrapped the luxurious cape tightly around herself, leaving only her head poking out. Her eyes darted around cautiously. The cape smelled like Jun Linyuan. It was cool, refreshing, and unique. To her surprise, she liked the scent. With the cape around her, Feng Wu felt very safe. That was strange. Feng Wu frowned. She thought she didn't like Jun Linyuan. Why didn't she find his smell repulsive? Feng Wu's eyes darted around. Wait. Why was there blood on that wall? She had been in the same place the whole time. There was no way her blood could have been smeared there. And the two of them were the only people here. Shit. Feng Wu smacked her forehead. Jun Linyuan's black robe had concealed his blood. It was his blood that had been transferred onto the white wall. He was injured. And why did that blood have a hint of green to it? Grinding her teeth at the pain from her wound, Feng Wu inched in that direction. She scraped a little blood off the wall and sniffed it. That smell. Feng Wu had a bad feeling. Chapter 890 What Happens in the Snowfield. 4. Are you trying to kill yourself? Tossing a dead deer on the ground, Jun Linyuan crouched down and wiped the blood off the wall. Feng Wu looked up Jun Linyuan and she sounded concerned when she asked, "Are you injured?" Jun Linyuan snorted. "Like that's news to you. I fight, I get injured." Feng Wu said, "But according to Feng Sun, you never fight. You only beat people up." Jun Linyuan rolled his eyes. "Ha!" Feng Wu asked in an earnest tone, "Do you feel unwell?" Crouching down, Jun Linyuan looked into her eyes. She couldn't decipher the look on his face. "Is this your way of showing your concern for me?" "Concern?" Feng Wu didn't think she was concerned for him. "I'm already injured and you're all that I can count on. I'll be helpless if you're down," Feng Wu said honestly. Then, to Feng Wu's surprise, Jun Linyuan's face turned livid. His eyes seemed to spit fire, which could burn her to ash. Involuntarily, Feng Wu flinched and inched back. Taking a deep breath, Jun Linyuan turned away and kicked the dead deer, which had already been drained of blood. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She watched Jun Linyuan in resignation. Why was this man so moody and unpredictable? He was so hard to please. However, the last thing Feng Wu wanted to do now was upset Jun Linyuan. Getting to her feet on her own, Feng Wu said, "Leave the deer alone. I'll take care of it. I'm starving." But Jun Linyuan ignored her. He lit a fire, cut up the deer, and concentrated on grilling the meat. He absorbed himself in the work with a livid face and tense muscles. The air he gave off was colder than the wind. Why did Feng Wu get the feeling that he was doing this out of spite? Like when a kid was mad and wouldn't talk about it. Was she overthinking it? Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu tentatively called his name. Jun Linyuan turned his back on her. Supporting herself on the wall, Feng Wu moved to his side. "Your Royal Highness." Jun Linyuan turned in the other direction, still facing away from her. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. So, he was really mad, like in a childish way. "Seriously? Hey, Jun Linyuan, are you mad at me?" Feng Wu tugged at Jun Linyuan and said in a pleading voice. Instinctively, Jun Linyuan wanted to throw off her hand, but he stiffened when he recalled her wounds and her pale face. "We're all alone here. It'll be so boring if you won't even talk to me. Right?" Feng Wu sat down next to Jun Linyuan. She stared at the fire for a moment before beaming at Jun Linyuan. "Right?" Jun Linyuan snorted and went back to grilling the meat. "Jun Linyuan, let's talk. Shall we?" Feng Wu sounded weak because of her injury and her tiny voice made Jun Linyuan feel sorry for her. However, Jun Linyuan only threw a dirty look at her and kept his silence. "I know you're angry," Feng Wu said in an innocent voice as she stared at the handsome teenager, whose face glowed in the heat. "But I just don't get it. Why are you angry and what are you angry at? Can you please tell me? I'll try my best not to do it again." "Okay." The girl looked so adorable when she spoke in a soft voice like this. Jun Linyuan felt as if someone was stroking his chest with a brush, and he almost gave in. But on second thought, the Crown Prince realized a much more serious issue. She was able to affect his emotions. Chapter 891, What Happens in the Snowfield. 5. She could easily make him angry. Or happy. Or moody. Jun Linyuan's heart skipped a bit and he bolted upright. "Ah!" Feng Wu had been sitting next to him and the momentum threw her off balance. She fell to the side. But Jun Linyuan caught her in time. "That hurts." Despite his quick reaction, Feng Wu still tilted over and stretched her wound. "Ouch!" Feng Wu drew in her breath and tears welled up in her eyes. "That hurt." Please don't tell her that she had ripped her wound open again. Feng Wu unwrapped the cape to check her shoulder blade. Good, there's no blood. The wound's fine. Feng Wu let out a breath of relief. Seeing Feng Wu bare her shoulder without hesitation, Jun Linyuan frowned. Do you ever feel shy? He stared at Feng Wu with conflicted feelings. Her clothes had been torn and her shoulder was uncovered. No other girl would check her wound like that in front of a man. But the girl did it as easily as breathing. Feng Wu looked very innocent when she turned to Jun Linyuan in bewilderment. It's just my shoulder. Just think of it as a sleeveless top. Never mind. It's no big deal. No big deal. Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. What's wrong now? Feng Wu's heart sank. He had been happier a moment ago, but that grim look was back on his face. She felt like crying. She had never met a man more difficult to please than the crown prince here. His mood was so erratic that she never knew what he was thinking. As a young woman, you should have scruples. Do you hear me? Jun Linyuan glared at Feng Wu. The thought of her behaving this way in front of other men made the teenager want to throttle her. Feng Wu was utterly baffled. What did scruples have anything to do with this? Luckily, Jun Linyuan hadn't used the term shameless, otherwise Feng Wu would be the one flaring up. Do you hear me? Clutching Feng Wu's wrist, Jun Linyuan stressed each word. His tone was too serious to be joking. Feng Wu was dependent on him for the moment and she had to succumb to his lecture. Yeah. I hear you. She was hardly ever this obedient that Jun Linyuan was baffled for a moment. Jun Linyuan, I'm starving. Seeing that the crown prince had softened a little, Feng Wu took the opportunity. She tugged at Jun Linyuan's sleeve and pouted. And that soft voice. Fine, Jun Linyuan said impatiently. However, his moves were so gentle when he helped her sit down, as if he was handling a piece of fragile treasure. Watching Jun Linyuan turn the meat over the fire with his slender fingers, Feng Wu was about to say something when Jun Linyuan began to take small bottles out of his sleeves. They contained condiments like salt and seasoning powder. He didn't even try to hide them. Can they all fit in your sleeves? Moreover, the guy was a neat freak. How could he stand filling his sleeves with those things? They're in my infinity storage bag. Jun Linyuan grunted. Feng Wu was taken aback. Shouldn't you keep that a secret from me? Chapter 892, What Happens in the Snowfield? 6. What secret? Your storage bag. If other people find out about such a treasure. So what if they know? Jun Linyuan was bewildered. They may try to. Forget it. Feng Wu finally remembered who she was talking to. What sort of question was that? It was Jun Linyuan she was talking about here. Those who tried to rob him would have to have a death wish. An idea struck her when she looked at the storage bag. She couldn't use her ring space as freely as she wanted, for it was too precious. But, if she could find an infinity storage bag like this, she could use it as a cover for her ring space. Feng Wu's face lit up. Is this kind of storage bag very hard to come by? Darting a look at Feng Wu, Jun Linyuan ignored her question. Feng Wu rubbed her nose. Fine. That was a silly question. If I want to have one of my own. What's the easiest way to get one? Feng Wu chose her words more carefully this time. Jun Linyuan said, dreaming. Feng Wu snapped, Jun Linyuan, what's that supposed to mean? Jun Linyuan said matter-of-factly, you heard me. That set Feng Wu off. You! She grunted, turned the other way, and crossed her arms. I'm not talking to you. Jun Linyuan then handed her some stewed venison. She had no idea how Jun Linyuan did it, but the grilled meat smelled amazing. The aroma made her mouth water. Humph. I'm not eating it. Still crossing her arms, Feng Wu raised her chin. The next second, the meat disappeared from her sight. Feng Wu turned around to see that all that was left of the meat was the skewer. Jun Linyuan, he wouldn't even try to coax her. He then handed her a second skewer with meat on it. Feng Wu thought about assuming heirs, but she realized that not only wouldn't Jun Linyuan try to persuade her, he would also eat the meat himself. Hence, she forgot about her little pride and took the skewer. One bite and Feng Wu's eyes widened. It was so delicious. The taste was mellow and well-rounded. The meat had the perfect tenderness and it was so juicy that it melted on the tongue. It was superb. Of all the grilled meat she had tasted, this was the first time that Feng Wu wanted to shed tears of joy. Feng Wu barely chewed the meat before swallowing it, then eyed Jun Linyuan eagerly. The crown prince worked on one skewer at a time, instead of grilling a handful altogether, which was the common practice. However, he was quite efficient, and could grill one skewer per minute. As Feng Wu watched, she began to see how Jun Linyuan was able to do it. No wonder it tasted so good. Jun Linyuan had been grilling the meat with his own abnormal flame, which he had learned to control perfectly. He was able to split the flame into tiny streaks and cook the meat from within so that the fat melted. That was why it was so juicy. No one but Jun Linyuan could grill like this. Feng Wu stared at the skewer in Jun Linyuan's hand so hard that her eyes popped. However, before she could react, the crown prince had eaten the whole thing. Ah! My meat! Feng Wu felt like crying when she saw the bare skewer. Tugging at Jun Linyuan's arm, she cried out, "My meat! My meat! My meat!" Was that just meat? No, it wasn't. Chapter 893, Am I Not Your Dear Little Sister? The meat contained the energy of Jun Linyuan's abnormal flame, and the energy had been released so that other people could absorb it. Feng Wu sensed that there was a little more fire energy in her dantian after eating the first skewer. It wasn't grilled meat, but ambrosia. Jun Linyuan darted an indifferent look at Feng Wu. She was tittering like a little bird. Right now, she was behaving like a normal child, and he almost wanted to rub her head. However, Jun Linyuan was too proud to let his emotions show. Raising his hand, he was going to eat up the next skewer. Ah, my meat! My meat! Vexed, Feng Wu grabbed Jun Linyuan's arm and tried to take it from him. But Jun Linyuan wouldn't let her. Feng Wu was holding onto him like a monkey on the tree. Gimme, gimme, gimme! You can't have it! Jun Linyuan! Humph! Your Royal Highness! Humph! Brother Jun, Brother Jun, Brother Jun, am I not your dear little sister anymore? The things Feng Wu would say for food. She was unscrupulous like that. Her sweet voice was like a feather brushing against Jun Linyuan's chest. It was ticklish. Even someone as overbearing and arrogant as Jun Linyuan had to surrender to her pleading. He cleared his throat and cast a stern look at Feng Wu. Have you no shame? Feng Wu looked perfectly innocent. According to Feng Sun, you're like my half-brother, right? Jun Linyuan cursed Feng Sun in his head. Achoo! Over on the other side of the campsite, Feng Sun and Xian Yi were able to help all the candidates escape, even the unconscious Gong Sun Qing. They were catching their breaths when Feng Sun sneezed. He rubbed his nose. Who's talking about me behind my back? Little Feng Wu, maybe? Xian Yi asked. Feng Sun rubbed his nose and looked concerned. I hope it was her. If she has time to talk about me, she should be out of harm's way. Xian Yi patted his shoulder. Don't worry. Boss Jun went after her. I'm sure he'll find the girl. Feng Sun shook his head. Judging by the look on Boss Jun's face, I think Xiao Wu has been taken by that frosty night beast. Xian Yi nodded. Feng Sun didn't try to keep his voice down, so many other candidates heard him. And they all had different opinions. Many were either worried about Feng Wu or felt sympathetic. However, there were also people like Mu Yaoyao, who were filled with delight at Feng Wu's misfortune. Yaoying said under her breath, has Feng Wu been taken by the frosty night beast? Mu Yaoyao nodded. Is she going to die, then? Mu Yaoyao nodded. But didn't His Royal Highness go after her? Mu Yaoyao smirked. His Royal Highness hates Feng Wu. What do you think is going to happen? Yao Ying cried out a little. I see. Mu Yaoyao grinned. It seems that we won't have to see Feng Wu out and about anymore. Life will be so pleasant. Of course, people like Mu Yaoyao kept their joy to themselves and didn't let it show. After all, Feng Sun had made it clear that he was on Feng Wu's side and he would always back her up. Because of that, Mu Yaoyao didn't dare mess with Feng Wu openly. However, Feng Sun was saying something similar. Chapter 894, Where's Your Integrity? But Boss Jun doesn't like Xiao Wu. Feng Sun was dispirited and he sounded disturbed when he said, will he find Xiao Wu too much trouble and refuse to save her? Xian Yi's mouth fell open. Feng Sun went on. Do you remember that ugly girl in northern border city? Boss Jun turned a blind eye to her and left her to fend for herself. To Boss Jun, little Feng Wu is no different to that ugly girl. They're just strangers to him. Feng Sun could never have imagined that Feng Wu, that stranger, had just shouted at Jun Linyuan and called herself his dear little sister. His eyes would pop out if he heard those words. Xian Yi glanced at Feng Sun. You're overthinking it. Feng Sun glared at Xian Yi. How is that overthinking? I'm worried sick here and you're still making fun of me. I see. She's not your sister. That's why you don't care. Xian Yi rolled his eyes at Feng Sun. Boss Jun worries about little Feng Wu 10 times more than you do, okay? Saving her is going to be his top priority. He won't let anything happen to her. Back in the snow house. Feng Wu was practically on top of Jun Linyuan. Brother Jun, my dear brother Jun. Jun Linyuan seemed to have grown impatient. Fine, fine. You can have it. Elated, Feng Wu snatched the skewered meat and held it very tightly, fearing that Jun Linyuan would take it away. She eyed the skewers in Jun Linyuan's hands as she wolfed down her own. Brother Jun, please grill some more. You're still hungry? Yes. Brother Jun, please grill some more for me. You're still hungry? Brother Jun, are you tired? Shall I massage your shoulders and legs? Feng Wu had put her own concoction on her wound. Together with the effect of the spectacular skewered meat, she was making a rapid recovery. She was already able to move freely. Don't. Jun Linyuan cast a stern look at Feng Wu. Stay where you are and don't move. Feng Wu pouted. All right. She gave it some thought, then took out a small notebook and began to take notes. Dos and don'ts. Rule number 1, avoid all physical contact with His Royal Highness. Feng Wu drew 5 stars next to it, stressing its importance. Feng Wu had decided that she would write down all the things she needed to watch out for when she was around Jun Linyuan. This way, maybe she wouldn't set him off that often. What are you writing? The Crown Prince was intrigued. And there weren't many things in this world that could interest him. But anything concerning Feng Wu was an exception, even the most trivial ones. Feng Wu didn't stop writing when she said, I'm making notes. What notes? Feng Wu finished writing at that moment and put it away in her chest pocket. She then beamed at him. Take a guess. Jun Linyuan said proudly, not interested. TCH. Then you shouldn't have asked. Resting her chin on her palms, Feng Wu swallowed when she saw the grilled meat turning in Jun Linyuan's hands. She said, I envy them. Them? Jun Linyuan was at a loss. I mean Feng Sun and Xian Yi. Feng Wu sighed with emotion. As your best friends, they can have this sort of grilled meat all the time. I'm so envious. Jun Linyuan rolled his eyes at her. After hanging out with him all these years, Feng Sun and Xian Yi had never tasted his cooking. This was the first time he had ever cooked for anyone. Although, the proud crown prince would never admit it. He only snorted, and didn't reply. Chapter 895, A Love Confession. 1. That night, a pair of teenagers sat against the wall in front of the dancing flames. Their beautiful faces glowed in the warm light. They looked as pretty as a picture. All was harmonious and peaceful, and one could almost see pink bubbles in the air. Warmed up by the fire, Feng began to doze off. She nodded like a chicken pecking at grain. Seeing this, Jun Linyuan shook his head and gently pressed her head to his shoulder as he mumbled, "Troublesome woman." The girl had to be asleep. Otherwise, she would have jumped to her feet at the retort, protesting his comment. At the thought of the girl yelling at him with her hands on her waist, Jun Linyuan shook his head with a wry smile. He was baffled when he saw his reflection in the ice. He was grinning like a goofball. Jun Linyuan, the person capable of shaking the empire with his anger, was smiling at the girl like a fool. What was more, he could think of nothing but the girl. He was obsessed with her smile, her voice, her movements, her everything. The unusual feeling was both intoxicating and dangerous. Turning his head, Jun Linyuan saw how her eyelashes cast shadows on her face. His eyes flickered. The girl gave him insomnia last night after sneaking into his room to kiss him in the middle of the night. Tonight, with her head on his shoulder, he was wide awake again. Was Xianyi right? Jun Linyuan considered the possibility that he was in love with this girl. Could he actually have fallen for a cripple? A good-for-nothing who would die in a few decades? The crown prince shook his head. Despite his high IQ, Jun Linyuan was useless when it came to relationships. He sat there in a daze until the sky outside began to brighten. Seeing Feng Wu's long eyelashes flutter, Jun Linyuan pushed Feng Wu away from him. Thump! Feng Wu's head bumped into a wall. That woke her up completely. Seeing the dent she made in the snow wall, Feng Wu was baffled. Rubbing her forehead, she looked up at Jun Linyuan in confusion. Did I do that? Seeing Feng Wu's swollen forehead, Jun Linyuan felt a little guilty, but he only raised his chin. It wasn't me. Feng Wu pouted, but couldn't think of any other possibility. She still mumbled in bewilderment, "I think someone shoved me into that wall when I was still asleep." Jun Linyuan coughed into his fist. "Your Royal Highness, have you caught a cold?" Feng Wu asked immediately. Jun Linyuan had to be all right. She needed him to keep her safe while that frosty night beast was still lurking somewhere. The crown prince enjoyed the concern in the girl's voice, but still kept his face straight. He only darted Feng Wu a glance without another word. "Hey, what's this?" Feng Wu then picked up something on the ground and studied it. It was no common pouch. Instead of cloth, it was made from some special material. Feng Wu could even sense a faint fluctuation of energy from it. "Is it an infinity storage bag?" Feng Wu asked Jun Linyuan in bewilderment. Chapter 896, A Love Confession. 2. Is it an infinity storage bag? Feng Wu asked Jun Linyuan in bewilderment. Jun Linyuan snorted. "It really is." Feng Wu's eyes twinkled. She would like to have one of her own. That way, she would be able to conceal the fact that she had a ring space, which would make things much easier for her. Jun Linyuan glanced at her, then gave her an indifferent nod. "So, this is what an infinity storage bag looks like." Feng Wu only handed it back to Jun Linyuan after studying it carefully. "There." Jun Linyuan frowned a little and stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu was bemused. "Isn't it yours? Put it away." Jun Linyuan found Feng Wu unbelievable. "No." He crossed his arms arrogantly. "What do you mean, no? It's dirty." He rolled his eyes at her. Feng Wu raised the pouch and shook it in front of his face. "What do you mean it's dirty? You heard me." Feng Wu ground her teeth. "Do you mean that it has dirt on it?" Jun Linyuan only snorted, but said nothing. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. "Jun Linyuan, you're so wasteful. This is an infinity storage bag, not some makeshift pouch made by your maids." My maids don't make makeshift pouches. No servant of his would dare be that careless. Feng Wu snapped, "You're not listening. This isn't some common pouch, but an infinity storage bag. You're going to throw it away because it has a little dirt on it?" Jun Linyuan said, "Yes." "Are you sure?" "Yes." "You mean it?" "Yes." "Fine. It's mine now." Jun Linyuan glanced at Feng Wu. "Whatever." Feng Wu grinned. She was over the moon. To Jun Linyuan, this was just a storage bag that he wouldn't think twice about throwing away. However, it was a treasure to her. She sent a streak of spiritual essence into the bag. Wait. She saw that it was quite a spacious one. The area inside was at least a few square meters wide. And it wasn't empty. A shelf of books stood in one corner, and Feng Wu's eyes lit up after a quick glance. Holy shit! The books were what she needed for Imperial College in the next few years. But she didn't linger long, in case Jun Linyuan noticed what he had left behind. "Is the bag empty?" she asked deliberately. Jun Linyuan said, "I don't know." "Then do whatever you want with it." He didn't seem to mind at all. Feng Wu grinned. This was wonderful. With that shelf of books, she would be able to teach herself for the next few years in Imperial College, for she had also noticed that those books still had Jun Linyuan's notes in them. While Feng Wu was secretly celebrating this, Jun Linyuan was also smiling at an angle that she couldn't see. All was perfect when, "Watch out." Jun Linyuan yanked Feng Wu back. The next second, he was out of sight. Feng Wu shuddered inwardly. A formidable power she had never experienced before was charging at her from below. Chapter 897, A Love Confession. 3. Run! Jun Linyuan shouted at Feng Wu. Feng Wu knew that at her current level, she would only be a burden to Jun Linyuan if she stayed here, not to mention that she was still injured. Without hesitation, Feng Wu ran in the other direction as fast as she could. She would look over her shoulder from time to time. Jun Linyuan was already exchanging blows with the Frosty Night Beast in midair. After a night of rest, the Frosty Night Beast was back to its normal state. Feng Wu even thought that it looked more powerful than before. Thump! 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 Sounds of the fight rang out incessantly behind her. They echoed in the snowy mountains. Feng Wu ran down the slope. She had realized that the fight might start another avalanche. When that happened, she might really be buried this time. This had to be one of Feng Wu's most unlucky days. The moment she thought about the avalanche, she heard a crack from a nearby peak. Feng Wu turned around and was dumbfounded. An avalanche! It was really happening. Her worst fear had just come true. In midair, Jun Linyuan and the beast continued their deadly battle. Wind blew snow into the air, blurring Feng Wu's sight. She was worried about Jun Linyuan. That blood she saw yesterday didn't seem right. But there was no time for her to worry about other people. Run, run, run. If she stayed here, she would be a burden to Jun Linyuan. Run, run, run. Feng Wu ran for her life like there was no tomorrow. The avalanche was rushing down in her direction. She would be devoured if she didn't hurry up. However, the snow was coming at too tremendous a speed for her to get away. It started off 10 kilometers away from her. But before she realized it, it was catching up to her. 5 kilometers. 3 kilometers. 1 kilometer. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder again and saw that the snow was coming at her like a crashing wave. It was as if an ocean was pouring over her head. The wave of snow rose to what seemed like 1,000 meters. It was a shocking scene. She would be 100 meters underground if the snow got her. Feng Wu knew she wouldn't be able to get out when that happened. She would suffocate. Death was on her heels. 500m.300m.100m. Feng Wu didn't need to turn around to know that the snow was about to hit her in the back. She couldn't do it anymore. Feng Wu was overwhelmed with despair. She couldn't run any faster. She was going to be buried. She would never be able to get out. However, her mind spun faster in this moment of crisis. Little Phoenix. At that critical moment, Feng Wu summoned Little Phoenix. The bird was from her master and was meant to be her ride. It was still too little for that job, but teleport us as high as you can. Before Little Phoenix realized what was going on, Feng Wu had cried out her order. Startled, Little Phoenix did as told before it could even think. Feng Wu caught the bird by the talons just before it acted, and she was teleported along with it. 1 kilometer was Little Phoenix's limit. With Feng Wu and the upward direction, it only made it 500 m. Chapter 898, Jun Linyuan, 1. Right at that moment, the avalanche caught up to them. The wall of snow smashed down on Feng Wu and Little Phoenix. At the last moment, Feng Wu put the bird back into her ring. She, on the other hand, curled up into a ball before the snow swallowed her. She had it all planned out. She would let the bird bring her up into the air before the snow got her. That way, she wouldn't be buried as deep. Waves of snow kept crashing down above her and Feng Wu was surrounded by darkness. The impact made her head swim. She would love to pass out and have a nap. But she knew perfectly well that she couldn't do that. If she slept now, she would never be able to wake up again. To Feng Wu's frustration, she was disoriented in the darkness. She didn't know which direction was up. She had to dig herself out now. Finding the right direction would save her a lot of energy. Luckily, her mind was sharpest in the most critical situations. I'll let gravity do its job. If Feng Wu spat, her saliva would fall downward, all she needed to do was dig in the opposite direction. She then started digging. Thanks to her achievements in both the ice and fire attributes, she was able to melt an upward tunnel that was wide enough for her to crawl through. Soon she created a passageway which headed straight up. Cough, cough. With much difficulty, Feng Wu was able to get herself out. Lying over a pile of snow, Feng Wu panted for air. She had been so close to suffocating down there. Luckily, she had been buried at a much shallower level after her maneuver. Otherwise, she would have been killed. Feng Wu looked up to find endless white stretching out in all directions. Everywhere she turned, she saw nothing but snow. The avalanche had wiped clean all traces. What about Jun Linyuan? Feng Wu looked up at the spot where Jun Linyuan and the beast had been fighting a moment ago, but they were nowhere to be found. Seriously? Feng Wu's stomach lurched. This wasn't good. Without hesitation, she ran in that direction. She had been too absorbed in running for her life earlier to care about her wound, but the pain caught her attention now. The wound inflicted by the frosty night beast was still fresh, and it began to hurt again after all the running. But none of that mattered. She needed to find Jun Linyuan now. Was he alright? Feng Wu had confidence in Jun Linyuan, but she recalled the blood on the wall. It had smelled funny. Feng Wu suspected that the guy had been poisoned, but Jun Linyuan wouldn't let her see it, which vexed her. As a result, his wound had remained untreated. Feng Wu smacked her head in frustration. She shouldn't have overlooked it. Before long, she reached the spot where the fight had taken place. The snow walls were long gone, presumably buried by the avalanche. There was nothing but snow here. Jun Linyuan was nowhere to be found. Nor was the beast. It was as if they had never been here. Jun Linyuan. Chapter 899, Jun Linyuan, 2. Jun Linyuan. Jun Linyuan. Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu shouted at the top of her lungs. However, no matter how loudly she called, she got no reply. It was as if she was the only one left in the world. Unprecedented loneliness and apprehension struck Feng Wu. She stood there, feeling helpless. Wait! Feng Wu smacked her forehead. She couldn't find him, but the cub could. The cub was born with a nose for sniffing out treasures, which was practically any item on Jun Linyuan. Hell, the man himself was a treasure. So, she should leave it to the cub. Feng Wu took the cub out of the ring. The little thing was fast asleep as if there was no tomorrow. It shuddered involuntarily when Feng Wu took it out. The cold woke it up. Opening its eyes, the cub saw Feng Wu's face. It then turned in her palm and went back to sleep. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Feng Tutu. Wake up. Wake up now. Feng Wu patted the cub's head. Feng Tutu opened its sleepy eyes and looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. It seemed that it could fall back asleep at any moment. It was as if it was going to doze off as soon as Feng Wu finished talking. Feng Wu flicked it on the head. Wake up already. I need your expertise now. Find Jun Linyuan for me. Feng Wu rubbed Feng Tutu's head. Do you remember Jun Linyuan? He's that human teenager with a poker face. The one you want to run away from all the time. Ah, Feng Tutu sounded reluctant. But Feng Wu smacked it on the head. Now! Ah, Feng Tutu ran off, turning around to give Feng Wu a pleading look every few steps. Be quick about it. Feng Wu said sternly. Feng Tutu sighed aggrievedly. With no other choice, it had to start searching. Wait. Feng Tutu sniffed, then ran to a spot a few steps away and started digging. That fast? Feng Wu was pleasantly surprised. However, she frowned after another look. If she remembered correctly, this was where she and Jun Linyuan had spent the night. Jun Linyuan had even built a snow house here, which had been buried by the avalanche. That was where Feng Tutu was digging. Feng Wu shook her head. No, this isn't right. Feng Wu rushed over to stop the cub. The smell here is from last night. Not here. Feng Tutu turned to look at Feng Wu. Feng Wu nodded solemnly. It's from last night. Go search somewhere else. Feng Tutu tilted its head, then went back to its digging. Feng Wu was vexed. I told you, this scent is from when he was here last night. Feng Tutu. Stop playing and be serious. Find him. Feng Tutu ignored her and went on digging. Feng Wu was going to stop the cub when it jumped into the pit it dug. That naughty little thing. She would teach it a lesson once this was over. Melting the snow with her fire's spiritual energy, Feng Wu followed Feng Tutu into the snow. Luckily, she could still get air here. Feng Tutu was tiny and nimble. It was rather difficult for Feng Wu to catch the cub. Feng Tutu. Get back here. Feng Wu almost caught it a few times, but the cub was always able to get away at the last moment. Whenever Feng Wu turned to leave, it would run to Feng Wu in a teasing manner. Chapter 900, Jun Linyuan, 3. Feng Wu was speechless. The cub was just a baby and it was already so willful. Imagine how it would behave when it grew up. Moreover, this really wasn't the time to play hide and seek. Finding Jun Linyuan was Feng Wu's top priority. She was about to summon Feng Tutu back to her and go back up when Feng Tutu showed up again. This time, it had a small pouch in its mouth, which looked rather familiar. Feng Wu's stomach lurched when she saw the pattern on it. The two birds were the ones she had embroidered herself under Jun Linyuan's supervision in World Tower. She had made them look like a pair of ducklings. That was the pouch Feng Wu was holding now. Jun Linyuan. Astonished, Feng Wu picked Feng Tutu up immediately. Where did you find this? Take me to him. She had no time to wonder why Jun Linyuan had such an ugly pouch on him. All she could think of was something must have happened to Jun Linyuan. Feng Tutu then led Feng Wu to a snow house. To Feng Wu's astonishment, that snow house which Jun Linyuan had made with a wave of his hand was still intact. They had to be hundreds of meters underground now. The walls had managed to withstand such a heavy load of snow. A teenager in a black robe lay inside with his hands crossed on his stomach. His eyes were shut and he wasn't moving. There was ice all over him and frost covered his hair, eyebrows, and entire face. Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu drew in her breath. Involuntarily, she reached out to check Jun Linyuan's breathing. But he wasn't breathing. Oh God! At that moment, Feng Wu's head went blank, as if she had just been struck by lightning. Had the formidable crown prince died? Feng Wu panicked at that thought. Without thinking, she activated her spiritual energy and sent a streak into Jun Linyuan's energy channels. Thump! Her spiritual essence bounced back. Feng Wu was speechless. Jun Linyuan wasn't breathing and she couldn't get her spiritual essence into him. What should she do? Feng Wu was flustered. Even Jun Linyuan would die if he stopped breathing for too long. They were short of oxygen this deep underground, which didn't help at all. Feng Wu threw Jun Linyuan onto her back and quickly climbed back up to the surface. After laying Jun Linyuan flat on his back on the snow, Feng Wu bent over and put her mouth over his without hesitation. She breathed some air into Jun Linyuan's lungs. Ding! Jun Linyuan opened his eyes, as if on cue. And he looked into Feng Wu's eyes. Both of them widened their eyes and they were taken aback. Realizing that she was on top of Jun Linyuan, Feng Wu scrambled to get off. In her flustered state, Feng Wu fell into the hole that she had just climbed up from. It was a few hundred meters deep. Feng Wu fell in head first and there was no way for her to stop. At that critical moment, Jun Linyuan reached out and caught Feng Wu by the hand. Feng Wu had fallen in halfway when Jun Linyuan caught her. If he hadn't, she would have dropped down a few hundred meters and cracked her head open. With Jun Linyuan's help, Feng Wu steadied herself and climbed out of the hole. Before she could let out a breath of relief, she heard Jun Linyuan's voice, "You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."